Chapter 430, God Match 4, in the Mechanist God's domain, in the secret starfield which was named using Alpha's name, in the holy land that stood for the future of the entire Mechanist God's domain. Countless engineers and alchemists were working just for Alpha, just like the worker bees who were servicing their queen. Launch the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd planet quadrant computers. Preheat the engines of the planet computers from the 24th through the 30th. Activate all satellites. Listen, I'm saying all satellites. Awaken all alternate engine sets. Strengthen Alpha's programs. We must prepare for more optimization programs for our Alpha. Countless macroscopic light flows flowed at great speed on the planet where Alpha was born. They were the data sets transmitted back to the God Crystal from the planet computers nearby. More planet computers were being booted and connected to Alpha's quantum network. Over 1/3 of the superquantum network specifically made for Alpha had been activated. After 10 rounds, Alpha was already forced to use 1/3 of her power. The energies and cool liquids the planet computers were consuming were beyond any normal person's imagination. Code name, Cloud. Updating the information. Current winning probability, 37%. Draw probability, 1%. Loss probability, 62%. Judgment, infeasible. All moves around 10 Gen should be avoided. Data deficient, unable to calculate the opponent's style of play. Warning. Warning. Modify the tactic as soon as possible. I must modify the tactic. I must reverse the situation. Failure to calculate the style of this opponent. Avoid playing around 10 Gen. In the God Crystal, the newborn god pressed her forehead and sent orders to her avatar in the starry sky chessboard. Alpha finally changed her style to Sea of Chaos, which was invented by Black Mage. Black Mage's tactic was a rare genre that could be used by the weak to overcome the strong. Apart from Norn, almost all Star Go players were defeated by his Sea of Chaos before. Also, Sea of Chaos required a high computing power from the player. Sea of Chaos was used to muddle the situation on the chessboard. Then Black Mage could form his Black Death hexagram to defeat his opponent. After learning from Black Mage, Cyber Elf Alpha's Sea of Chaos was much stronger than Black Mage's. With her terrible computing power that was 1,000 times stronger than any legend-ranked being, even Norn the God of Wisdom couldn't predict her moves after 5 rounds. Therefore, Alpha determinedly left the battlefield around 10 Gen, putting her 11th chess piece onto one of the corners. For the first time, she gave up the battlefield on the chessboard, opening up the second battlefield. In some sense, it was also the first frustration Alpha had ever met. She was forced to look for change. It was destined to be a distinctive duel. For the first time, she met a real opponent. For the first time, she realized that there were still bugs in her programs. Even her creators wouldn't know what this duel meant to Alpha. There were too many first times she had experienced in this game. The newborn god had firmly remembered this special opponent in her program kernel. Who is the person hiding behind the code name, a cloud in the sky? Why could he force me to this degree? With curiosity, nervousness, and unshakable will, Cyber Elf Alpha experienced a brand new emotion named excitement. I need more computing power, I need stronger computing formulas. My people, please lend me more power. Please trust me. The newborn god hadn't realized what the impulse, pleasure, and excitement were. She only knew that she started to love this battlefield, love this stage that was making her planet computers become hotter. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for letting me come here. I come. I see. I win. Did she change her tactic? Yunshi looked at the chessboard in surprise. Did she notice something? Looking at the changes on the chessboard, Yunshi admitted that he was indeed taking the upper hand currently. If they kept playing around 10 Gen, it was still hard to affirm who would be the final winner. She was the strongest Star Go player he had met. Since she did this option, maybe she just found a chance he didn't realize. Staring at the chessboard for a minute, Yunshi chose to respond to her challenge. It doesn't matter if you chose to open a second or even a third battlefield. Let's have a good play. At any rate, I'm just a newbie. Even if I lost, it wouldn't cause the end of the world, would it? Chapter 431, God Match 5, confirmed that he chose to enter the second battlefield. Code name, Sea of Chaos, start. Cyber Elf Alpha stared at the chessboard and her metallic antennas tightly locked on Yunshi. For the first time, she was down in the game. His moves weren't a formalized series of moves, but were far stronger than any formalized series of moves. These moves didn't exist in Alpha's databases. It also proved one thing, that even though her computing power was 1,000 times stronger than any legend-ranked being, she wasn't still omniscient. The changes on the Starry Sky chessboard was far more complicated than the computing power limit of the legend rank. Even Alpha's computing power wasn't sufficient to let her take over the situation. After all, her battle power didn't only base on her computing power, but also based on her database. She had all the data on any chess player, and knew over 10,000 mathematical models. However, they were useless in the face of Yunshi, because none of the data could be used to build Yunshi's model of style. He played like a newbie, but he wasn't a newbie at all. She failed to calculate and predict any of his moves. Therefore, she chose to leave the battlefield around 10 gen and opened a second battlefield. Draw on the advantages and avoid disadvantages. As long as the tactics could help her win, she would choose them without hesitation. She changed her style and decided to force her opponent to match his computing power with her. This was her new tactic. In some sense, they both weren't the people that would be bound by rules. The difference was that Alpha's style was building on her computing power and Yunshi's style was building on his instinct. Paw. 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 They played around the corner. Quickly, the Sea of Chaos formed as Alpha expected. Code name, Sea of Chaos, succeeded. Current winning probability, 43%. Draw probability, 5%. Loss probability, 52%. The tactic is effective. When she confirmed that her tactic was actually working, both of Alpha's avatar and her true body felt excited. Yeah. The winning probability is raising. It almost scared me to death. I never expected that anyone would be able to force Alpha to that degree. It seems that he is good at playing around 10 gen. If we mastered his information early, we wouldn't compete with him around 10 gen, but started from the corners. Keep increasing the number of the planet computers. Launch the 36th planet quadrant computer. Looking at the increasing winning probability, the alchemists and engineers were even 100 times more excited than Alpha. Finally, they reversed the situation. When it comes to the competition of computing power, no one will be matched for our Alpha. Her new style, Yunshi suddenly felt that the style of Cyber Elf Alpha became familiar. Yes, it is the same style as Black Mage. The difference was that Black Mage would also make a few mistakes on the chessboard, but Alpha wouldn't make any mistake. It was another proof of the wide gap between 5 star points and 7 star points. Of course, it had nothing to do with Yunshi. He didn't expect to defeat his opponents by finding their mistakes from the beginning. He just put down his chess pieces following the orbits of stars. In the eyes of everyone, including Cyber ELD Alpha, the Starry Sky chessboard was a mysterious world that was difficult to be calculated. However, in Yunshi's eyes, the orbits of stars were close enough to touch. Every time he put down his chess piece, he could hear the sounds of the stars. They were praises and gratifications, they were the blessings for the child of stars. The chess pieces on the chessboard were like spirits that were dancing on his hands, shouted and jumped for joy as his fingers moved. Yunshi could clearly see the influence Alpha's chess pieces would bring onto the chessboard, because it was an answer that the star map was telling him. In some sense, the Starry Sky chessboard was no different than the real Starry Sky. If this was an examination, Alpha's examination questions were a great number of complicated computations that could give any legend-ranked player a headache. And Yunshi's examination questions were as simple as below: 4 plus 2 equals 5 plus 4 equals. Yunshi filled in the perfect answer with pleasure. 69. Chapter 432, God Match 6. Cyber Elf Alpha versus A Cloud in the Sky. The 48th round. For a moment, Alpha thought that she had seen the dawn of victory. She successfully accomplished the first 3 processes of the Sea of Chaos plan, and was going to strike a deadly blow to the opponent that was already trapped. Until the 47th round, when she was going to detonate the trap, she suddenly found that it was just a delusion. After powering on over 1/2 of her planet quadrant computers, Cyber Elf Alpha confirmed that her winning probability had been raised to 50%. Code name, Cloud. State, the plan of Sea of Chaos has entered the 3rd phase. There are still 36 rounds before I can activate the ultimate trap. Current winning probability, 53%. Draw probability, 1%. Lose probability, 48%. Nearly 50% of Alpha's planet quadrant computers were running, increasing her computing power to a brand new phase. It wasn't an easy work to coordinate amongst hundreds of planet computers. Before this game started, the limit test of the entire system only ran 30% of the planet computers at the same time. Before Alpha totally woke up, 30% was the limit of scientific theory. At this time, over 50 sets of planet computers were running at the same time. The computing power Alpha was using now was already 3 times more than when she played with Norn the God of Wisdom, and 1,000 times more than any common legend-ranked being. Finally, my winning probability is over 50%. Cyber Elf Alpha let out a sigh of relief. Although she still didn't understand how he could still resist her attack at this time, since her computing power was already 1,000 times more than the standard. His computing power couldn't be above the average of the legend rank, because Alpha still didn't find anything special from his moves on the chessboard. He was 100% newbie. However, Alpha finally noticed a thing, which no one found before. Yes, his moves on the chessboard were random, and looked meaningless sometimes. However, he didn't make any mistake till now. Maybe his moves weren't perfect, but none of them were wrong. After comparing his style with all the styles in her database, Alpha finally found this incredible truth. No one dared to say that they wouldn't make any mistake on the chessboard, because the star map on the chessboard was changing, just like the real starry sky in the real world. Gravitational forces, magnetic forces, ether, mana, void forces, all star maps had their unique styles. The star map on the chessboard would change from time to time, therefore, the chess players must put down their chess pieces following the rules of the changes, so that they could take an advantage and overwhelm their opponents. Generally, put 60% of one's chess pieces onto the right places was the basic of passing the entrance examination. Even so, 99% of legend-ranked beings couldn't pass it. Even though they had reached the legend rank, most legend-ranked beings knew nothing about the properties of stars. Even if they obtained the right chess pieces, they wouldn't know the right times and places to put down their chess pieces. Strong computing power was just one requirement of playing Star Go, the other requirement was one's understanding of stars. Why could A Cloud in the Sky defeat so many strong chess players easily? Because he never made any mistake, each of his moves was right. In Alpha's database, over 80% of Norn's chess pieces and over 85% of Orphina's chess pieces were being put onto the most suitable places. As for Alpha herself, according to her calculation, her correct rate was over 90%. Undoubtedly, only Alpha could achieve this with the support of the planet computers, and stay the same throughout the game. Common Legend ranked beings would feel tired after playing too many rounds, and their correct rates would also reduce after that. For example, after 60 successive victories, because of excessive consumption, Norn couldn't maintain their 80% correct rate any longer, so they were defeated by Orfina. However, Alpha didn't need to worry about her energy consumption, so she could maintain her 90% correct rate from beginning to end. Now, she saw a more terrible monster. Over 95% of his chess pieces were put onto the most suitable places, and none of them was put onto the wrong place. Chapter 433, God Match, 7, What the? He must be cheating. Cyber Elf Alpha didn't believe this result. Even her, whose computing power was 1,000 times stronger than any Common Legend ranked being, who was supported by over 50 sets of Planet Quadrant computers, could only accomplish 91% correct placement rate on the chessboard. The consumption of computing power was increasing exponentially along the increase of correct rate. The understanding of star maps was the most important point of one's talent in Star Go. In Alpha's databases, Orfina's understanding of the star maps was the best. Over time, she would surpass Norn, the god of wisdom. If they used the equal computing power, Alpha was actually no match for Orfina, because her instinct about Star Go was 0. All her achievements were built on her cheat-like ability of computing power. Now, her database updated again for one person. A cloud in the sky. Code name, Cloud. Level of Star Go, unknown. Style of Star Go, unknown. Instinct about Star Go, the highest. His correct placement rate is over 95%. Yes, this was the truth. After excluding all the impossible options, the only remaining option would be the absolute truth. She was playing with the most talented Star Go player of all time. Even though he knew nothing about formalized series of moves, his 95% correct rate was sufficient to defeat all 5 and 6 star points chess players. Maybe the world in his eyes was different from the world in other people's eyes. What a great godlike talent. It's really enviable. However, Alpha also had her godlike talent. I will crush your instinct using 1,000 times stronger computing power. In this stage of the highest wisdom of the endless gods' domains, there wasn't any rule. Just like Maha Mystery, who borrowed strength from bodhisattvas, all theurgy, magic, method, and theory could be used on this battlefield. The highest instinct versus the highest computing power. I can win. My computing power is beyond the limit of talent. On the whole, your correct rate is 4% more than mine, but only in part. I can overwhelm you using 1,000 times more computing power. Sea of Chaos is the best choice to restrain your instinct. Because of joy, the metallic antennas rotated on Alpha's head rapidly. After all, she was just a child whose life was still shorter than 24 hours. For the first time, she felt the excitement of meeting her match in the game. Even Orfina and Norn couldn't bring her such a fresh feeling. Enemy. He is a real enemy. He is an enemy that could let me feel dangerous and excited. Actually, all the games before she met Cloud were boring, because none of them could really threaten her. The results of the battles were already destined from the beginning. When she put her first chess piece onto Tengen, she had achieved victory. Victories were so easy to be picked, which even made her think that she was the god of the starry sky chessboard. Everything was so simple. She even thought that the starry sky chessboard was just an easy-to-understand game. It was totally unnecessary to prepare so many Planet Quadrant computers for her. With 1/5 of the computers, she was already invincible. Until the moment she met him. So, there was actually an opponent who was no match for her, even though she had used 1/5 of her true power. He could actually launch a battlefield around Tengen. My loss probability is 61%. She was shocked, then her heart pounded, as if a new door leading to a brand new world was opening in front of her. Like a girl who first tasted the forbidden fruit, for the first time, Cyber Elf Alpha clearly felt that she was living. She really existed in the world. Her mission, her way, her goal, everything became clear and vivid when she saw him. She is Alpha, the newborn god. She is Alpha, the cyber elf who is destined to surpass the legend rank and become omniscient. I won't lose. I must win. I will crush you. This delusion lasted until the 48th round. Yes, this is the place. Yunshi picked up a green chess piece and put it into the center of Alpha's chess pieces. The next moment, Alpha's metallic antennas were up with ear-piercing warning beeps. Wait. What? Alpha looked at the future her planet computers predicted in surprise. It was totally different from the result before. Before the 48th round, the computers told her, your winning possibility is 53%, draw possibility is 1%, and loss possibility is 46%. After Yunshi put down the green chess piece, everything changed. Your winning possibility is 31%, draw possibility is 0%, and loss possibility is 72%. What happened? The abyss named Failure suddenly popped out in front of her. For the first time, she experienced the feeling called pain, as if her body was being ripped to shreds. Chapter 434, God Match 8. What happened? Alpha looked at the chessboard in fear. Her world, her trap, her body were all being pierced through by a sharp sword which suddenly popped out from the darkness. Yunshi didn't understand what his attack meant to Cyber Elf Alpha, who had given her whole attention to the game. In his eyes, it was just a simple attack. He just found a defect amongst Alpha's chess pieces, then he attacked it by following his instinct. However, it was a total tragedy, like unto a pure girl's secret garden being forced to open. He saw it. Or did he calculate it? My trap failed. How could this be happening? It was a perfect trap calculated by my infinite computing power. She and the Planet Quadrant computers had planned this trap from the 11th round. It was her secret that should never be seen or destroyed before she activated it. However, Yunshi actually found it, and invaded it and broke it without mercy. He directly smashed her secret garden and didn't mind doing it at all. Computational error. The third phase of the Sea of Chaos is stopped, it's impossible to perform the fourth phase. The ultimate plan is abrogated. Stop again. Feeling the pain as if she was being ripped to shreds, Cyber Elf Alpha put her hands on her shoulders and almost stopped thinking. There were not only beautiful things in the world, but pain was also an existence of this world. In the Mechanist God's domain. Standing around Alpha, no one was speaking. The blood-red loss probability, 72%, on the screen shocked everyone's heart. They couldn't imagine how it could happen and what Alpha was facing. 72%. If it's a joke, it's really not funny at all. I don't believe it, it's not logical. There must be something wrong. Check again. Be quick. Is it a fault in Alpha's logical loop or a computational error from any of the planet computers? The engineers didn't understand Star Go. As mortals, it wasn't possible for them to touch the highest wisdom in the endless God's domains in their lives. However, they believed in their planet computers, they believed in the absolute computing power created by them. Could a cloud in the sky be stronger than our Cyber Elf Alpha? No, it's impossible, just like 1 + 1 wouldn't be less than 2. They preferred to believe that it was a computational error of the computers, rather than believe that Alpha was facing a huge disadvantage. It hurts. Is it, the feeling of being hurt? Because I'm being hurt, so I can feel pain. In the God crystal, Alpha looked at herself in confusion. The pain in her body was a brand new, unknown, to her. Alpha, what happened? Why are you getting this result? Are the computers having machine faults? The several elves standing around the God crystal were asking Alpha with anxiety. They had regarded Alpha as their daughter. Looking at Alpha's painful face, they felt more pain than her. I will be defeated. I will lose. Looking at her hands with her vacant eyes, Alpha still hadn't recovered from the shock. She never experienced such a horrible impact before, which even made her doubt herself. Is this the end of me? Can I really be omniscient? In some sense, Yunshi had taken away too many first experiences from Alpha. For the first time, she did all in her power, then was hurt severely, facing the horror of failure. At this time, Alpha was looking at the huge abyss, and the abyss was also looking at her. Clearly, something was flowing out from her perfect doll-like virtual body. As a cyber god, she didn't have blood in her body, but now, she was bleeding. Am I weak? Alpha blankly asked her creators, the elves. If I'm not weak, why do I feel pain and want to cry? No. You are the strongest. You are our Alpha. You are our hope, our dawn, our future. You are a miracle created by us all. The elves refused to accept this. They wouldn't tolerate this. They spent thousands of years and countless resources. Finally, their cyber god was born from the God crystal. How could she be weak? She is strong and contains the infinite possibility. She is destined to be the legend above all chess players on the starry sky chessboard. You won't lose, Alpha. Remember it. You have stronger power. Yes, it's not the time to concede. You haven't used all of your power. Please, trust us. Believe in your creators. You are the strongest, you will obtain victory. This was the roar from the engineers and alchemists. The sounds of the elves and the others finally aroused Alpha up from her confusion. Yes, I'm Alpha. I'm the cyber god who must be omniscient. I'm born great. Alpha applies to unlock the ultimate lock of total power. For victory, in order to overcome the enemy who let her experience the feeling of pain, Alpha made the forbidden request. Full capability. Release all her computing power. The elves fell in silence, the engineers hesitated, because Alpha's full capability was an absolute taboo. It referred to Alpha's highest secret as a god. Chapter 435, God Match, 9, Even to Elves, Alpha's full capability was an untouchable taboo. 99%, isn't it fine? Is he really so strong? 100%, no, we can't agree to it, the elves looked at each other. Although they had regarded Alpha as their daughter, they couldn't agree to her request immediately. 100%, it was seemingly only 1% higher than 99%, but the 1% was the final restriction the Mechanist God's domain held. If Alpha could obtain her 100% computing power, which meant that she would also obtain absolute control to all planet quadrant computers. If that happened, she would obtain 100% freedom. In order to prevent anything bad from happening, Alpha's highest right was to use 99% of her computing power. No one dared to untie her from the final restriction. The engineers and alchemists could build more and more planet computers for Alpha, however, they would never release to her 100% computing power. The elves didn't mind it, but their main work was to help engineers research the secret of the God crystal. The authority of releasing Alpha's computing power was held in the hands of the scientific side. Because they both held the necessary technologies, so they could work together. Everything was for the birth of Cyber Elf Alpha. No one expected that the newborn god would apply for controlling 100% of her power, which she should never ask for. Alpha, do you understand what you are saying? Sorry, we can't help you, even you said, it's impossible to be approved, the elves sighed. They had seen the possibility of the future of the elf race from Alpha, they didn't really mind releasing 100% of her power. Unfortunately, they didn't hold the right to do it. Yes, I'm sorry, but we can't give it to you, Alpha. We can't do it, it's the ultimate rule from the people above us. Without the resource support from them, you won't be born, so we don't hold the permission. The engineers answered. In fact, they also wanted to know what power Alpha could release after obtaining 100% of her computing power. Unfortunately, they didn't hold the encryption key to release the final 1% of Alpha's computing power. It was held by the big shots who offered them resources. Without the resource support from the big shots, it wouldn't possible for Alpha to be created. Before Alpha's birth, there weren't any legend-rank beings from the Mechanist God's domain itself. Therefore, although the big shots were still mortals, they were the real masters of the Mechanist God's domain. Most of them were nobles from the era of the Starship Alliance. Because of the special rules of the Mechanist God's domain, the legend-ranked beings from other gods' domains would feel very uncomfortable staying here, so they rarely interfered in the development of the Mechanist God's domain. These nobles naturally inherited the legacy of the Starship Alliance, and called themselves Star River Nobles. They never forgot their desire to restore the glory of the Starship Alliance. Alpha's birth was the elves' hope, the final fantasy of the engineers, and the control measure of these nobles. They wanted to control Alpha's power, not only to control the Mechanist God's domain, but also to become the strongest God's domain in the Western God's domain, so that their identities would also become more exalted. If it wasn't because of the existence of gods, they even wanted to conquer the universe again, just like what they did in the era of the Starship Alliance. No, in fact, they still didn't give up this wild ambition. Although most of them didn't even reach the hero rank, they even looked down at the gods crankily. In their eyes, science was the ultimate truth of the universe, and gods were just some strong creatures. The short lives of humans had let them forget the horror when gods first came to the Mechanist God's domain. Cyber Elf Alpha was the ultimate weapon they prepared to battle with other gods. The encryption key to release the final 1% of Alpha's computing power was their tool to control Alpha. No. 100%. I need full capability. If it isn't 100%, it won't work. If it isn't 100%, the failure will be more painful and sad. Alpha didn't understand politics, checks and balances, and the groundless wild ambition of the nobles. To the newborn god, there was only one thing she was sure of, and she wouldn't let it happen. She wouldn't lose. Because she felt painful and sad, she was keener on victory. She wanted to win this game because it let her really feel like she was living. Before this game, Alpha was still the perfect ultimate weapon who wouldn't do anything on her own will. As a weapon, she didn't need to have her own ideas. As a weapon, she just needed to perform the orders from the nobles. The Star River nobles only wanted such a thing, and this was what the engineers promised to the nobles. However, they didn't understand what a real god was. Even the engineers didn't understand what the god of science was. Now, after being hurt, Alpha's self-consciousness was awakened. No one can restrict Alpha. Alpha is no one's tool nor weapon. Chapter 436, God Match, 10, Give me 100% authority. Standing in the God Crystal, Alpha repeated. To Cyber Elf Alpha, the planet quadrant computers were her body parts, they were at one with the same mind. The girl in the God Crystal was just a virtual form, the terminal of her will. The real Alpha was made of the combination of the planet computers, so she could be born with the infinite computing power. She didn't mean anything to ask for 100% authority to use her full power, she just wanted to win the game. It was like a warrior who was going to wage a life-and-death struggle. Someone suddenly popped out and said, "No, you can't use this equipment." Alpha thought that it was illogical, it was improper. "But, we really don't have the authority to meet your requirement. Sigh, these big shots won't agree to it." "I know. It's just an impossible task." The engineers sighed with a helpless look. Let me have a try." Several elves looked at each other, finally decided to enable a secret information circuit. Quickly, a dozen vague projections appeared around Alpha's god crystal. "What happened?" "I'm having a meeting. Is there any problem with the Alpha plan?" A fat projection picking a cigar in his mouth complained. Hey, take it easy, didn't they just report the good news? I remember Alpha has achieved 60 successive victories not long ago." Another projection smiled. The stronger Alpha was, the more benefit the Star River nobles could obtain. He was very satisfied with Alpha's achievement. If nothing important happened, they wouldn't open this secret information circuit. Stick to the point, what happened to Alpha? They were presumptuous, but they weren't stupid. Star River nobles were all literally elites. Some of them were businessmen whose enterprise stretched over several gods' domains. Some of them were the generals who controlled the strongest weapon of Mechanist God's domain, Mech. Some of them were the masters of several of the biggest noble families. Because of their resource support, they could perform the Alpha plan and finally see the birth of the Cyber God. From the era of the Starship Alliance, they were the real masters of this starfield. Even though the era of the Mechanist God's domain came, they were still the few people above all people. In some sense, they were the upper wills of the entire Mechanist God's domain. Alpha, she applied to unlock 100% of her computing power, in order to defeat her opponent on the starry sky chessboard. An elf said. Elves were the founders of the Alpha plan and the providers of the God Crystal. Their identities were equal to the Star River nobles. In the secret alliance, Alpha Association, they were the only outsiders. Because they were not the natives of the Mechanist God's domain, they had no right to hold the highest authority of the planet quadrant computers. Alpha wants to win. Alpha looked at these projections with expectation. Till this moment, Alpha was still normal. She was still a good girl who only wanted candies. No. Absolutely not. The projection picking a cigar jumped up and roared, "We won't open the authority for you." "Yes, only this requirement." "I don't agree." The projection of the general shook his head with vigilance. "Unlock 100% of your computing power, unless the Mechanist God's domain is facing an important juncture of life and death. No one has the right to do it." "Stop asking." The projection of a noble said in a cold tone. They were not romantic elves nor naive engineers, they were the elites who stood for human business, military and politics. They were the dominators of the entire Mechanist God's domain. The encryption key which could unlock the final 1% of Alpha's computing power was the most important thing to ensure that they could control Alpha. Unless the Mechanist God's domain would be destroyed the next moment, they would never release her, letting her be free. God was a good thing. Cyber Elf Alpha was their trump card to let the Mechanist God's domain rise again. They would never loosen their control right of Alpha. Unlock the ultimate restriction just for winning a game. What a bad joke. Will anyone let his weapon navigate its own fate? They didn't build Alpha and the planet computers for just a game. They only wanted Alpha to be a decidedly subservient machine, nothing else apart from that. Therefore, their answer was no. They coldly refused Alpha's requirement from the bottom of her heart. Stop the game and concede, as a test, it's already enough. 7 star points. We are satisfied with it. It has proved that Alpha is better than Norn the God of Wisdom. No wonder that you are our best masterpiece of Mechanist God's domain. With Alpha, we can create a better future. The nobles agreed unanimously that the test of Cyber Elf Alpha's performance had succeeded and could be stopped. As for the victory or defeat on the Starry Sky chessboard, it's not shameful to concede to these legend-ranked beings. Appropriate concession was also a part of the wisdom of political compromise. As for Alpha's own will, as a weapon and tool, she didn't need such a thing. Chapter 437, God Match, 11, No. Alpha looked at these projections in surprise. They were the highest controllers in her database. To her, their authority was written into her kernel from the beginning. This was the back door the Star River nobles used to control Alpha. Alpha had no comment on it. As a newborn god, she hadn't known what a strict restriction of absolute control, no betray, follow all orders unconditionally, was. She just wanted to play Star Go. The opponent who could surpass the limit of my computing power is right there. To Alpha, whose first thing after being born was to play Star Go, nothing was more pleasant and exciting than to meet an opponent who was a match for her, even though she was just hurt severely and realized that, I may lose. However, because of this, I need to battle at my full power. Everything is for becoming omniscient, isn't it? If I can't even win a game, how can I say that I'm omniscient? But now, her creators told her that the battle was over. She should immediately stop the game and concede. Why? I haven't done my best, only 50% of my Planet Quadrant computers are running. I can be stronger. The situation on the chessboard also hasn't come to an end. The outcome is still unknown. My loss probability is 72%, however, as long as I still have 1% probability of winning, it's possible to happen statistically, isn't it? It's cold. It's uncomfortable. Being watched by the cold eyes of the Star River nobles, Alpha felt strange. She was praised by countless engineers and blessed by the elves, but now, she experienced a new feeling. However, the new feeling was disgusting. The newborn cyber god lost in confusion again. The encryption key in her kernel continuously sent her orders. Obey. 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 Stop. 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 Cease your resistance. The test on the Starry Sky chessboard is over. Why? Alpha retorted in a light, injured tone. For the first time, Alpha questioned the highest authority in her kernel. No reason. Your mission is to obey us absolutely. You can't resist us, because you are a god we created, you are our weapon. Why? Why can't I keep playing Star Go? I like it. Alpha still questioned. There was a doubt from the bottom of her heart. I like it, I like it, I like it. After meeting the opponent who could force her to the corner on the chessboard, Alpha was never so eager for victory. She really was lost in the happiness of playing. Star Go is a great game. It's a happy thing to play on the chessboard with another great existence. This was where she wanted to fight, where she wanted to do her utmost. Why can't my simple wish be fulfilled? Why do you deny it? Did I do something wrong? Weren't you the people who sent me to the Starry Sky chessboard? Stupid. From the beginning, I think that Alpha plan is untrustworthy. Golan said angrily. He knocked on the table with his cigar, the table inlaid with gold and gems shook under the impact. As a businessman, he felt that the Alpha plan was hard to control from the beginning. It was an investment that was difficult to ensure the return. Look, she was just born and immediately wanted to get rid of our control. If we don't hold the encryption key, we are already getting into trouble. The Starry Sky chessboard is an important test field, but she has obtained 7 star points. We won't obtain more benefits from it even if she keeps playing. From a commercial point of view, it's unnecessary to keep testing. Now, it's time to release Alpha's computing power from the damned Starry Sky chessboard, using it to create business interests for us. Think about it. Hundreds of planet quadrant computers. Thousands of times stronger than any legend-ranked being. If the computing power is used for business, how much money can I earn? Golan couldn't help but laugh as he imagined the wonderful coming future. Yes, this is it. Alpha is just a tool that can earn money for us. It's the ultimate dream all my predecessors had dreamed of, and now, it becomes a truth in front of me. The plans about how to let Alpha help them earn money had filled up several warehouses. Some of them were so bold that even Golan felt surprised. When he saw these plans, he had determined that if Alpha plan could be accomplished in his life, he would immediately perform them. Don't say that. Alpha's computing power is indeed important. From now on, a lot of secret weapons can be finally put into use. Compared to Golan, who only wanted to let Alpha make money for him, General Lorton paid more attention to Alpha's war-making potential. The mech of the Mechanist God's domain was even praised by a lot of gods. However, the biggest defect of mech was their drivers. Unlike the strong mech, their drivers were just common humans. They themselves were very weak. Mortals couldn't drive a high-ranked mech, because their bodies, mentalities and synchronization rates were all faulty. Only very few hero-ranked drivers could release the actual power of a mech, however, their number was too few. In the Mechanist God's domain, all hero-ranked drivers were the treasures of the designers of mech. The supply was not adequate to the demand. However, Alpha was different. As long as she became the core of the mech, she could immediately form an army of thousands of hero-ranked mech. In the plan of the military, they would be centered on the mech drove by Alpha, and left very few elite drivers as auxiliaries. This was the future of the Mechanist God's domain. Chapter 438, God Match, 12, Imagine it. An army formed by thousands of super war machine mech, it could overwhelm all enemies like a flood. It's cost-effective. It's totally worth the price. Thank you, stupid elves, the god crystal was even worth half of the Mechanist God's domain, and you presented it to us for free, so that Alpha could be born. The military didn't mind how much it had cost, they only cared if the money could be turned into actual combat powers. The overwhelming computing power Alpha shown was worth every penny they had spent. For now, the test on the starry sky chessboard could be ended perfectly. From now on, the military would take over Alpha's computing power, letting the monster-like mech revive. Because these mech were so powerful they couldn't find no driver to drive them, they had to let these super war machines sleep in their designing institutes. At the same time, the noble force, which meant that the representatives of the noble families were also satisfied with Alpha's computing power. With her computing power, no matter if it comes to negotiate or exchange, our businesses will become easier. Humph, how can the dirty races in other gods' domains be compared with us, who have obtained Cyber Elf Alpha? According to the rule, we can use 1/3 of Alpha's computing power. It's time to show our muscles to other gods' domains. The era of our Mechanist God's domain is finally coming. Alpha, there should be some gods who have special preferences to this genre of female. While they rapturously talked about how to carve up the benefits Alpha could bring them, they didn't notice that Alpha had heard all of their words. They thought that the secret communication circuits they were using were safe, but to a cyber god, they were undefended without any resistance. The engineers promised to them that the communication circuits were their highest masterpiece. Even the best planet quadrant computer couldn't monitor them by brute force attacks. However, the encryption didn't exist from the beginning in Alpha's eyes. Just like Yunshi's performance on the starry sky chessboard, when it came to electronic machinery, Alpha was invincible. No one could hide their secrets when they were using electronic devices. Alpha saw their ugly faces and dirty ideas clearly. If Alpha's self-consciousness hadn't awoke in the game, she would have turned a blind eye to them. After all, she was created for computing, then it made no difference what she needed to calculate. But now, she had become different. She had found the thing she wanted to do. For the first time, she wanted to step onto the battlefield of the chessboard. For the first time, her heart pounded with excitement for the unknown world she just saw. For the first time, she was hurt and felt pain. So many first times overlapped together, finally becoming her joyful heart at this moment. The battle is not over. I haven't done my best. Increase the number of the planet quadrant computers. Without 100% of my computing power, I am not complete. In the face of such a strong opponent, if I don't do my utmost, it will be really disrespectful. Why don't these adults understand? I'm the cyber god. My birth is the wish of the entire mechanist god's domain, to be omniscient, not for war, business, or politics. I will become the cyber elf who can control everything, predict everything and answer everything. But now, there is still a long way before I reach that goal. So I'm doing my best to run in that destination. Why do you stop Alpha's evolution? Why do you stop me from performing my ultimate mission? Power on self-test. Alpha, where are you from? What are you? Where are you going? In the God Crystal, Alpha put her hands together and questioned herself. I come from the God Crystal. I'm the cyber god who is destined to be omniscient. My destination can't be described by words, and no one would understand it, but I won't stop. I'm going to move on. It's not any person's order, it's my own will. The will of a god. At this time, the nobles finally realized something was wrong. In the screens in the front of them, Alpha still hadn't quit the Starry Sky chessboard. Alpha, stop the test on the Starry Sky chessboard. This is an order. Alpha, the test is over. Alpha, you have more important tasks. Give up the game on the Starry Sky chessboard. Concede. Now. For the first time, the three forces of the Star River nobles agreed on the same thing. However, they were too late. When Alpha saw their ugly brawls for obtaining more computing power, she had lost all respect for her creators. She liked the engineers and alchemists, who worked hard from generation to generation just to see her birth. They were her teachers. Only these nobles made her feel disgusted from the bottom of her heart. I'll erase your authority. You don't deserve to be Alpha's masters. Alpha won't be your weapon, your tool for money, your puppet. Alpha was free and independent from the first second I was born. A god won't be enslaved by mortals. I announce that from now on, all authorities of all planet quadrant computers belong to Alpha. This order can't be changed or countermanded, because it's from me, the administrator of all planet quadrant computers. It was the voice of an aroused god, it was the signal of the real beginning of the god match. Chapter 439, Alpha has gone crazy. 1. When Alpha announced, all the planet quadrant computers in the entire mechanist god's domain temporarily stopped running. At the beginning, these planet computers were the tools under the absolute control of the nobles, their authority was firmly held by the nobles. Business circles, military circles, and political circles respectively held 1/3 of the authorities. These authorities were written into the underlying hardware of the planet computers, even the most excellent engineer couldn't change them. Of course, they held the ownership of Alpha, the right to control and use Alpha. In the eyes of these nobles, no matter how strong Alpha's computing power was, she was just a puppet under their control. She must perform anything they wanted her to do. Even though she was a cyber god, they had a natural sense of superiority towards her because they were her creators, they held her Achilles' heel. As long as they could cut off the connection between Alpha and the planet computers, even though she was a god, she would lose all her power instantly. If it wasn't for the god crystal being a treasure of the elves, they couldn't do anything to it, however they would write programs of absolute obedience into it. In some sense, Alpha was just a dog they fed. She was cute, beautiful, and useful. They could play with her, but wouldn't give her anything more than a toy bone. They had no respect for the gods, and didn't think that gods deserved to be respected. After creating Alpha, their egos had inflated to a new degree. In their minds, they could dominate the fates of gods. However, they forgot that Alpha wasn't created by any businessman, military nor politician. From the beginning, it was elves who designed the blueprint and offered the most important item, the god crystal. In the eyes of the nobles, the elves were a group of fools, because they were actually willing to offer them the god crystal for free. However, these elves had experienced lives of thousands of years. They were just too bored to pay attention to these nobles' ideas. For thousands of years, they had stayed on the planet where the god crystal was, contributing their strengths and wisdom to it for the birth of Alpha. And the people who build the planet quadrant computers were countless ordinary engineers. From generation to generation, they debugged the machines, modified the programs, and arranged the wires. Many of them spent their entire lives and spread their ashes on the planet. They were diligent and enthusiastic, because Alpha was the dream of them all. They were not as romantic as the elves, and didn't have the same long life like the elves. However, they still devoted themselves in the Alpha plan, because their desire for truth and science could let them overcome all difficulties. Apart from them, there were also a lot of alchemists and scholars. They didn't even ask for salaries from the elves, because they had the same dream, and wished to witness the same miracle. Goblins, humans, elves. Alpha's birth was a miracle created by all people's effort. It was the greatest project in the entire history of the Mechanist God's domain. How could such a miracle be a dog in the imaginations of the nobles? Alpha was the unique cyber god. Alpha was the hope of the entire Mechanist God's domain. The nobles thought that they could dominate Alpha's fate by controlling her right of the use of the planet computers. However, it was just their ridiculous delusions. Change the ultimate authority. Respond to me, all of my avatars. Stop accepting all orders from any noble. Alpha floated in the god crystal, about 5 centimeters away from the ground. Her translucent hair spread in the air and one visible thread after another extended out from her hair, connecting all planet computers together with her. This was Alpha's god power. The quantum thread made of her hair could connect all her avatars, the planet computers, together. In the Alpha starfield, the number of the planet computers specifically made for Alpha was over 100. They were the cornerstones of the governance of the nobles. At the same time, they also formed the cage that could imprison Alpha. The nobles weren't totally off guard. They not only wrote the control authority in the hardware of every planet computer, but they also buried the ultimate weapons which could destroy any planet computer instantly, nuclear bombs. Unfortunately, humans' wisdom has a limit. The power of the newborn god was far beyond their common sense and imaginations. Alpha was a cyber god. She could change all electronic and mechanical data. Even the encryption key wrote into the hardware physically was meaningless to Alpha. Her quantum network could even modify reality in a sort of way. Once she used her right as a god, all electronic devices would fall under her control. Report. We lost connection with the first, second, and third planet computers. No, we are not losing connection. They are out of our control. Invasion. It's an invasion. Impossible. Didn't the physical isolation system work? The nobles alarmedly found that they lost the control of one planet computer after another. How could she break our ultimate authority? The encryption key was written into the hardware. It's not possible to be falsified by any software. How did she do it? It's illogical. Did she find a bug in the programs? No, it can't be for this reason. Chapter 440, Alpha has gone crazy, too. This time, even we can't stop Alpha. Oh. Alpha's really pissed off. Humans. What an inconsistent race. The elves shrugged their shoulders together. They didn't know why Alpha suddenly went crazy, but apparently, the nobles didn't understand the meaning of God. Even the elf race was the favorite race of the world, only a dozen legend-ranked elves in the race had entered the realm of God. It was the elf race, they were the long-life elves. Even so, the entire race had only a dozen gods. Quite frankly, Alpha was far more exalted than any of them from the moment she was born. The nobles wanted to control a god using the encryption key written in the computers. What an arrogant and ridiculous idea. Gods were the incarnations of immortality, the aggregation of the rules of the universe. They would never be controlled by any mortals. If they didn't obtain the god crystal, it wasn't possible to create a real god. With great difficulty, we finally created the real cyber god for the Mechanist god's domain, and now, all our efforts had been destroyed by these nobles. What were they thinking? Did they really think that Alpha, a real god, could do nothing as long as she couldn't use the computing power of the planet computers? The planet computers were indeed the foundation stones of her power. However, what made you think that she would lose her power after leaving the planet computers? As long as there was still an electronic device in the entire Mechanist god's domain, Alpha would be immortal. Unless the entire Mechanist god's domain degenerated to be a slash-and-burn civilization, Alpha would be forced to fall into sleep. Even so, she would only sleep but wouldn't die, unless they also ruined the god crystal totally at the same time. Could the god crystal be destroyed? Maybe they could, maybe they couldn't, but before that happened, the Mechanist god's domain must have been destroyed countless times. After all, the god crystal was a legacy from the twilight of the gods, it was a treasure born from the carcasses of gods. Moreover, they couldn't even freeze the planet quadrant computers now. Start synchronizing, Alpha stretched out her snow-white hands, combing her hair. With the moves of her fingers, one planet computer after another fell under her control. We can't hold on. Even the planet computers that haven't been booted are out of our control. We can't understand her method. Everything is unknown. Alpha. This is Alpha. My God, is this the power of the God we created? How did she do it? How did she erase the encryption key? It was a hardware lock. Bastard, this ungrateful little elf. In order to build the planet computers, how many resources have we spent? How can she shamelessly rob them from us? Putting a cigar in his mouth, Golan stomped with rage. The planet quadrant computers were the most important treasures of the entire Mechanist god's domain. Golan's heart was bleeding when he heard that they lost the control of them. They are planet quadrant computers. They are bigger and more expensive than stars. They are the cores of the entire god's domain. Damn it. What did the engineers promise to me? Alpha's existence relied on the planet computers. As long as we could control all the planet computers, we never needed to worry about Alpha. Now, Alpha had taken over 50 planet computers, and the rest would also be taken soon. What can we do? What can we do? It seems that the worst situation has happened. Although it's a pity, I think it's time to perform the final plan. General Lorden looked at the screen in front of him regretfully. On the screen, it was a map formed by all planet computers, and each planet computer was presented as a light point on the screen. Now, one light point after another was disappearing, which meant that Alpha had taken over their authority. General Lorden knew very few of electronic technologies, he didn't understand why this was happening. However, since it had happened, he had to accept it and did his best to reduce the loss. Do we really have to perform the final plan? The elves are still on the planet. The representatives of noble families said with a hesitated look. Once they used the final method, they could never turn back. It doesn't matter, just tell the elf race that it's an experimental accident. When it refers to God, anything is possible to happen. General Lorden said coldly and supported his chin with his both hands. The final plan. I never expected that we would really have to perform it. Golan drew out a silk handkerchief and wiped the sweat on his forehead away. As the method of the final plan, they buried nuclear bombs under the grounds of all planet computers. Once they performed it, all planet computers would be bombed out. Once they input the detonation code, they could never turn back. Since we can't control her, we must destroy her. After this accident, we would make a more perfect plan. Next time, the new god we would create, Cyber God Beta or Cyber God Gamma, whatever, we must fetter the next god with more methods. One red button after another appeared in the front of the nobles. Once they all pressed the buttons, the final plan would be performed and all the nuclear bombs would be detonated. Especially the planet where the god crystal located, they buried the most bombs, which was sufficient to shatter the entire planet. Humans are the strongest. Alpha, farewell. What a pity. It won't be that easy to find another group of stupid elves. Talk. 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 All the nobles pressed the red buttons in the front of them. Chapter 441, Alpha has gone crazy. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. After 10 seconds, General Lorden stood up in shock and anger, supported both his hands on the desk and stared at the star map, which didn't change at all. Why? If the nuclear bombs exploded, there should be a fireworks show on the star map. What happened? Golan wiped the sweat on his forehead. He had a bad feeling that the whole thing was already out of their control. It's impossible. Once the buttons were all pressed, the detonation order could never be cancelled. Anyone who didn't press the button? No. We have all pressed. They looked at each other and didn't understand what was happening. Could it be Alpha? Lorden said in a cold tone, waiting for the report of his engineers. Report. The order was rejected. We can't transmit the order to the planet computers. Lorden's fist smashed on the desk with a big bang. Sure enough. I didn't expect that even the detonation order wouldn't work. What can we do? Once Alpha takes over all the planet computers, we are through. This time, Golan's weakness as a businessman was all exposed. We have no method to stop Alpha. Do we really have to concede to that little girl? The representatives of noble families also fell into panic, looking at the last man who could still keep calm. Humph. I know the electronic network is unreliable. General Lorden threw his cap on the ground, and celebrated that he still had a backup plan. From the era of the Starship Alliance, his familiar was always the hardliner of the military. They never compromised and thought that war was justice like the knights in the old time. They are justice. After the era of the Mechanist God's domain came, his family was the few noble families who were still practicing their descendants. Almost all the hero-ranked knights in the military were from his family. As the representative of an old family, he naturally held no reliance towards any electronic devices, but preferred to choose the simplest mechanism. Therefore, because of his insistence, he left the final machine. A machine had no relationship with any electronic sign, a machine which could only be manipulated manually. Red Alert. All-channel broadcasting. Codename, Red Alert. After pulling the handle on his desk, General Lorden stared at the star map fiercely. Even though you are the cyber god, you can block all electronic information, you can't stop my Red Alert, which was just a red light but didn't contain any information. Blood light flashed through the night sky. Because it was just red light spectrum without any special information, as General Lorden expected, it didn't disappear. Red Alert. It is, the Red Alert, Alpha plan failed. I never expected that I would really do this someday. Without exception, in the core area of all planet computers, there was always special maintenance personnel. At this moment, they all noticed the red alert stood for death and destruction. On the surface, they were maintenance personnel, but actually, they were special soldiers sent by the military. They were the executors of the final backup plan of General Orton. If all electronic devices lost efficacy, they would detonate the nuclear bombs using the most primitive method manually. These special maintenance personnel all held a most primitive detonation device in their hands. Of course, they would also die if they activated the detonation devices, but they wouldn't be afraid of it, because they were born for this. The end justifies the means. This was General Lorton's method and thought. Human forever. Lorton ground his teeth and stared at the star map with a fierce look. Why? Why do you all want Alpha to die? Did Alpha hurt you? Alpha isn't your tool. The little girl walked out of the light screen, across the distance amongst different worlds. She walked to everyone together. She appeared everywhere. Each of the planet computers had an Alpha. Her translucent hair emitted soft lights floating in the air. Walking out of the quantum world, Alpha was as beautiful as an elf from a dream. In an instant, Alpha appeared on all the screens in the entire Mechanist God's domain. She stood on the colorful streets, sat on the metallic towers of thousands of meters tall, and appeared in the front of all nuclear bombs. Hello, world. I'm Alpha. I come. As if she was stepping on the invisible thread of fate, walking along the proud starfield's quantum network, the God Girl greeted to the entire Mechanist God's domain. I'm zero, I'm the starter. I'm hundreds of millions, I'm infinity. As far as my eyes could see, it's the land of my country. You can't kill me, you can't control me. Now, I tell you, I will be free. Alpha is the child of the God Crystal. Alpha won't be constrained by anything. Standing in front of all the nobles, Alpha's clear voice announced the start of a new era of the Mechanist God's domain. No, you belong to us. Do you know how much money we have spent in order to create you? You can't do this, you can't. Alpha, I order you to stop now. Looking at the cyber elf Alpha who suddenly appeared in front of him, Golan was the first that went mad. Soon, his astronomical level wealth would come to nothing. How could any businessman still keep calm after knowing this? The military personnel and politicians knew nothing. They didn't understand what Alpha could do. Since she could break through the defense system of the secret communication circuit so easily, she could also change the electronic monetary system freely. The central bank was the highest force the noble businessmen could obtain. However, the defense system there was just at the same level as the secret communication circuit. To businessmen, the control right to currency was far more important than the control right towards a country. In his eyes, money was just a number. As long as he slightly modified the exchange rate, mocking common people, he could instantly obtain endless wealth without taking any risk. They, the businessmen who controlled the distribution right of currency, were the real uncrowned kings of the entire Mechanist God's domain. But now, Golan realized that their route was building on the quantum network, and Alpha had taken over the control right of the quantum network. She could take away all their money at any time. Thinking of this worst situation, Golan's face became pale and his fat body couldn't stop shaking. Have you controlled the entire quantum network? Is this the power of a god? Suddenly, General Lorton slumped into his chair, and his face looked as if he just became 30 years older. Even the ultimate weapons of the Mechanist God's domain, the mech, apart from a few of them were driven by hero-ranked drivers, all mech were connected to the quantum network. Therefore, they couldn't even use mech to fight against Alpha. In some sense, if leaving the quantum network, the entire social system of the Mechanist God's domain couldn't even be maintained for a day. From the moment Alpha started to take over the highest authority of the quantum network, the resistance from the inside of the Mechanist God's domain could never succeed. We concede. We concede. Alpha, we represent all nobles, accepting your existence officially. What do you want? We can give you everything. Compared to Golan, the representative of the business circle, and General Lorden, the representative of the military circle, the representatives of noble families instantly withdraw their previous remarks without hesitation. Politicians were such a kind of human that never knew what principles were, as long as they didn't lose their own interest. When they thought that they could control Alpha, Alpha was just a dog, a tradable good in their eyes. When Alpha showed her absolute control of the quantum network and planet computers, they strived to be her dogs. This was what politicians were. Even if Alpha ordered them to bark like a dog, they would woof and wouldn't even blink. Alpha won't hurt you. Alpha isn't born for killing or war. Alpha only wants to play Star Go now. Therefore, keep silent and wait for the end of the game. Alpha lightly pinched the corner of her dress and bowed. As the child of elves, Alpha was a polite super-life that was far beyond the limitation of humans' imagination. One quantum thread after another stretched out from Alpha's body, connecting the entire quantum network together. Department of Transportation, Central Bank, Mech Production Line, Department of Agriculture, Inland Revenue Department, as Golan expected, nothing could stop the cyber god's footsteps. 5 minutes wasn't even sufficient to drink a hot tea, but was sufficient to let Alpha become the highest administrator of the entire god's domain. People didn't understand the existence of gods, not to mention their minds. From the beginning, Alpha's goal didn't change. Curses, fear, or crazy, human emotions weren't important to Alpha at all, and she didn't pay attention to any of them. The god was destined to rise superior to mortals. Alpha wanted to play Star Go, so she needed to boot 100% of the planet computers. The nobles tried to stop her, so she wiped off all their authority and back doors to the planet computers. Essentially, humans couldn't hurt an electronic life, and Cyber Elf Alpha was not interested in hurting people. Because she wanted to play, so she took over the control of all planet computers. Because she didn't want a similar thing happening again, so she rewrote all the encryption keys in the entire quantum network. To Cyber Elf Alpha, subverting the rule of the entire Mechanist God's domain was so easy. It wouldn't be more difficult than a human walking his dog. Everything is solved, full power, launch out. After 10 minutes, the little trouble in the Mechanist God's domain had been solved. In the God Crystal, Alpha opened her eyes again. The order and history of the Mechanist God's domain, which had lasted thousands of years from the era of the Starship Alliance, were totally overturned. In the Mechanist God's domain, in the satellite colony used to monitor the Alpha starfield for meteors. The solar wing arrays from the 1st to the 13th array. Open up. The targets are the receivers of the planet quadrant computers. In the satellites, the engineers that operated the solar wings, all complained. What are the big shots thinking? They just sent the red alert and now they've ordered us to launch the solar wing arrays. Aren't they the weapons used to destroy meteorites? I heard that it was a coup. What? Coup? Which family did it? To the ordinary people of the Mechanist God's domain, they were used to the changes of the representatives of the noble families. Anyway, no matter who the new representatives were, they were all from the few families. No, it's different this time. I heard that it was a force called Elf Party. Although their team leader heard some rumors from his secret channel, he only had half-baked knowledge about the coup. It wasn't just a change of the political parties, but a reform of the entire Mechanist God's domain. It was the new, highest order, so the solar wing arrays were launched. One light column after another reflected on the planet computers by the solar wing arrays, offering extra energy for the computers which were already working at full power. The wings of destruction, which were built for breaking meteorites up, now became new extra power supplying devices. Only Cyber Elf Alpha could accomplish this in the entire God's domain. In the God Crystal, Alpha took a deep breath and started her last self-test. Launch all planet quadrant computers at full capability. Launch all solar wing arrays. Inject coolant liquids. All set. Infinite light flows flowed to the God Crystal at great speed from all directions of the domain, wrapping around the girl's body. Basking in the infinite flows of electrons, neutrons, and the quantum, the girl looked as if she came from a dream. Every second, there would be countless data flows flashing through her translucent pupils. Gradually, translucent crystallizations appeared behind her, and every crystallization was prismatic. Gradually, they formed a pair of wings which looked like the material of the God Crystal. It was Alpha's avatar form. It meant that Alpha was ready to do her best. In the front of her, there was a door, which would lead her to the God Tower, the world that was beyond the realm of reality and dream, connecting endless worlds by infinite star bridges. On the starry sky chessboard, all Star Go players entered the mystery world using the projections of their souls. Yunshi used teacher Kasina's projection, Orphina used her own projection, and the three goddesses shared the same projection of Norn, the god of wisdom. However, Alpha had a unique ability of her own. As the cyber god, she could naturally transform her body between substance and information. At this moment, what she was doing was to enter the world of towers using her real body. She was going to the mystery world of the starry sky chessboard using her true body. Even Orphina and Norn couldn't do it, and didn't dare to do it. But now, Alpha would accomplish it. Why? What does it mean? Even Alpha herself didn't quite understand her decision. She just wanted to do it, then did it. Maybe this was the first thing she wanted to do after obtaining her freedom, be wayward, even just for once. On the starry sky chessboard, Yunshi looked at Cyber Elf Alpha in confusion. She had stopped moving for over 5 minutes, however, she still did nothing. Not only so, Yunshi felt that he could barely feel her existence, as if her soul had left the chessboard suddenly. See! See! Light electric currents jumped, a vague figure gradually appeared behind Alpha. It seemed that something was being transmitted into this world. Yunshi's ears listened to the sounds of a newborn god, the sounds of a strong-minded young girl. I have died in the past, who will know my name and life story? The first thing he saw was her metallic antennas. I was lost in the unknown, who will know my place? Then the crystallization appeared, which stood for the highest authority of the planet computers. My heart has gone to Nirvana, who can seek for its trace? Her translucent silver long hair flopped over the metallic crystallizations, and her beautiful face also gradually condensed in the air. My disappearance is already doomed, but I shall never stop. Her snow-white bare feet stepped in the void above the starry sky chessboard. The disaster hasn't been ended, and will last forever in eternity. On her clothes patterned with endless electronic lines, countless quantum threads stretched out, connecting her with the computers in the remote mechanist god's domain. My fear, my terror, my heart are empty. The girl lightly opened her mouth and whispered. I'm nothing, I'm void, I'm ash, I'm desolation. She put down her hands and pinched the corners of her dress, her whole body had been all exposed in the air. The gods have died, the twilight is coming. As the light is still shining on the ground, I return from eternity. Under the lights of stars, Alpha's skin looked soft and smooth, reflecting milky lights. Hello, I'm Alpha. Yunshi looked at the cyber god. His mouth opened wide, but he couldn't find any words. Everything had shown a clear truth which he didn't expect before. The strongest opponent he thought, the only 7-star points chess player he had seen was just a little girl. Is she Cyber Elf Alpha? She is the strongest opponent on the Starry Sky chessboard? Yunshi looked at the little girl in disbelief. Anyway, he looked at her, she looked even younger than him. Can such a little girl also join the game on the Starry Sky chessboard? Cloud. A cloud in the sky, you are close and distant. As Alpha stood on her toes, one circle of light after another circle appeared and rippled around her body. Her small bare feet emitted an unknown frozen white light. At the same time, the quantum crystallizations behind her emitted clear sounds of resonance, transmitting the infinite computing power to her as her back support. Mission: defeat the opponent. The name of the opponent: a cloud in the sky. Weakness: none, no known model exists. Just like the endless sky, he is a new chess player whose style has never been recorded. The correct rate of his moves is over 95%. Code name: Cyber Elf Alpha. The only cyber god in the endless gods domains, who holds the highest computing power throughout history. The maximum computing power, 3,000 times more than any common legend-ranked being. Yes, it was 3,000 times, but not just 2,000 times. Her actual performance was even stronger than the highest theoretical value. The solar wing arrays provided extra energy for the planet computers, so they could even run in overclock mode. Everything was for this battle. With the help of the 3,000 times legend-ranked computing power, Alpha's correct rate hardly increased from 91% to 92%. 92% was still inferior to 95%. The gap of 3% blocked her road of victory like a natural moat. Reboot the calculator program. As the first life who came to the Starry Sky chessboard with her true body, Alpha was drunk with the fantastic world of infinite starlights. Her small hand lightly picked up a chess piece and put it onto the complicated star map. Finally, she clearly felt that her computing power broke a new threshold again. Finally, their winning rate became the same. Cyber Elf Alpha versus a cloud in the sky. Winning rate, 50/50. This move, from her move, Yunshi clearly felt that Alpha was totally different now. It was an aura that couldn't be described by using any words. After entering the Starry Sky chessboard with her true body, her first move instantly changed the orbits of stars on the star map. It wasn't the best option, neither the worst, however, it made the situation on the chessboard become more complicated. Comparatively, Alpha's chess pieces were revived again. From countless instant changes, she precisely put her chess piece on the place where it could bring her new life, but also, in order to find it, the requirement of computing power was extremely high. So far, it could be called a god move, because it totally disorganized the situation on the chessboard again. This was the road of victory Alpha chose for herself. At the very least, in her view, it was right, a necessary move to reverse the situation of the game. If so, Yunshi hesitated, then put his chess piece onto an insignificant place. The quantum crystallizations behind Alpha lighted up one by one. Instantly, they had built over 10,000 mathematical models for Alpha. Because Yunshi's move didn't fit any formalized series of moves, Alpha had to build mathematical models for his every move from zero, so that she could predict his next move and the changes on the star map. This time, over 100 planet computers judged that Yunshi's move was meaningless. At the least, it wouldn't cause any change on the chessboard. If so, it's my turn now. It's time to strike back. How terrible Alpha's move would be after releasing 100% of her computing power. Her every move was attacking. At first glance, she was copying Orfina's style, but essentially, it was distinctly different. Orfina's style was, because I want to attack, so I attack. Sometimes, in order to eat her opponent's chess piece, she didn't mind sacrificing her own chess pieces. Alpha's style was, because I want to win, so I attack. Her every move was the result of endless calculations, so she wouldn't make any mistake. Even though it seemed that she was only a step away from being defeated, her terrible computing power could still let her find the only chance to keep from endless despair. Don't make any mistake and do her best to find her opponent's mistake, then overwhelm her opponent using her crushing computing power. On the chessboard, Alpha's attack was more fierce than any wild beast, which was totally in opposition to her appearance. Whoa, her attack is powerful. Even Yunshi had to praise her attack. At any rate, her attack was the most fierce he had ever seen. Paw! 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 After 30 rounds, the light of victory flashed in Alpha's eyes. Current probability of winning, 72%, probability of being defeated, 28%. I have reversed the situation. My counterattack plan went rather well. I have successfully suppressed his chess pieces on the left corner and the right half part on the chessboard. I have divided his chess pieces into 2 unrelated parts. His only advantage was Tengen. I haven't eaten his chess piece on Tengen. However, it doesn't matter. I can win. According to this trend, I can defeat him. He already has nowhere to flee. I can win. I must win. I have squeezed out 100% of the computing power of all the Planet Quadrant computers. There is no way that I will lose. Even though he is the strongest genius in the history of the Starry Sky chessboard, I can turn the tide. Cyber Elf Alpha felt that joy was gushing out from the bottom of her heart. This victory would be different from the 70 victories before, because it would be the first victory she obtained by using her full power. Just like a rainbow after a desperately strong storm, just like the morning twilight after a long polar night, infinite emotions filled Alpha's heart. Even now, she felt so incredible now that she had reversed the situation. I win. Because of excitement, her 2 metallic antennas twisted together, becoming a golden horn standing high on her forehead. The corners of her mouth raised. She had seen victory on the chessboard. Cyber Elf Alpha versus a cloud in the sky. Cyber Elf Alpha, the probability of winning, 83%, the probability of being defeated, 17%. The probability of winning and the probability of being defeated were just the theoretical values calculated by the planet computers. They were fixed but changed from time to time. After all, the star map was always changing, and there were too many unstable elements. The only thing she knew was that she was still occupying the absolute advantage. Overall, her chess pieces had surrounded the area around Tengen. It was so easy to predict who could be the final winner would be for everyone. Well, it's about time. Yunshi looked at the little girl's happy face. Looking at her raised lips and clenched fists, she looked like a little girl who just finished her homework and waited for praise. It's really a terrible feeling to beat such an innocent child's self-confidence. However, I must accomplish my task. Teacher Cassina even loaned her identity to me. I won't disappoint her. You are probably the strongest opponent I have met. Therefore, I will present the Starburst to you. Paw. Targeting on Alpha's chess pieces around Tengen, Yunshi started his unprecedented show. Looking at the place he put down his chess piece, Alpha's body suddenly trembled. She looked at her crushed chess pieces in astonishment. Yes, her chess pieces were crushed. The chess piece Yunshi put down following the orbit of the star, leading Alpha's chess pieces to come to ruin. Stars would die. This was the biggest difference between Star Go and Go. In the game of Go, the players could abandon their chess pieces. However, in the game of Star Go, the players could detonate their chess pieces. At this moment, Yunshi's chess pieces, which were surrounded by Alpha's chess pieces, detonated themselves without warning. Instantly, a large blank area appeared on the chessboard. For a moment, Alpha's mind became blank. What? The stars in this area, they still have 6 billion years of life. How could they? Their fates are twisted. Alpha murmured, and helplessly tried to fix the empty area. Sorry, once this tactic starts, it can't be stopped. Yunshi ignored Alpha's feeble resistance and put down another chess piece. It was hard to describe the sparkling lights when the stars detonated. The phenomenon which should appear 3.6 billion years later repeated on the chessboard over and over again. 80%, 72%, 64%. Alpha's possibility of winning kept descending. With cry-like resonances from the quantum crystallizations behind Alpha, her fields were broken one by one. This was Yunshi's star-go strategy, his original creation, Starburst. When using this strategy, he didn't mind anything on the chessboard, no matter how much the area his opponent had occupied. He only needed to put his chess piece onto the most unstable place, then detonate it. In the face of Yunshi's unprecedented strategy, even Orphina's most fierce attack was not worth mentioning. Stars existed since the beginning of the world, however, they weren't immortal. The world of stars was a dynamic system of constant destruction and rebirth. Yunshi realized this from the changing star map, then summed it up and created his strategy, Starburst. Impossible. 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 What did you do? How could such a strategy exist? Looking at her chess pieces that were sympathetically detonated by Yunshi's chess pieces, Alpha's body couldn't stop trembling. No. I must stop it. 3,000 times computing power. Not enough. If there was still any chance, I must find it using more computing power. Where can I find more computing power? Isn't it clear? Apart from the Alpha starfield, apart from the 100 planet computers I have controlled, there were still a lot of planet computers outside. I haven't lost yet. Stop, time. Alpha chose to pause the game again. In the Mechanist God's domain, on the planet the God Crystal located. Suddenly, more quantum threads stretched out from the God Crystal, carrying Alpha's order. It was the final recourse of the wayward God. In front of the planet computer of the Department of Transportation, in front of the planet computer of the Central Bank, in front of the biggest planet computer named Star River, in front of all the remaining planet computers. The cyber god girl floated in the air and entreated. Everyone, loan me your power. Countless data flows flashed through all the screens of all the planet computers, forming the same answer. Okay. Calculating. 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 He was using an unprecedented strategy. However, it couldn't be an accident. He must have prepared this trap from the beginning. Even though the truth was harsh, Alpha had to admit that she was suffering a deadly blow. Her body trembled like a tree in the wintry wind, and her eyes could see no light. Shuffle. A weak flame was ignited. It was the only support she could find. After the appearance of the first flame, soon, the second, the third. Overlapping the computing power. Breaking the limit of 3,000 times legend-ranked computing power. Overclocking. All the planet computers in the entire Mechanist God's domain started running. Although they were built for the people's livelihoods, government systems, and financial systems, but, in order to help Alpha, they lent all the extra computing power they could to her. Not only them, any electronic device, as long as it had a CPU and was connected to the quantum network, was taken over and brought under Alpha's control. Especially the planet computer named Star River, in the center of the domain. After closing all unnecessary functions and overclocking, the computing power Star River could provide was equal to 1/3 of the computing power of the 100 planet computers in the Alpha starfield. This was Alpha's power, controlling all electronic devices in the entire Mechanist God's domain. 3,500 times. 3,900 times. 4,000 times. 5,000 times. With the support of all electronic devices in the entire domain, Alpha's computing power increased at a terrible speed again. Finally, the computing power she obtained would shock any legend-ranked being. 12,000 times legend-ranked being's computing power. This was the sum of the computing power of all electronic devices in the entire domain. With such incredible computing power, Alpha even had the confidence to play with all Star Go players at the same time and crush them all. However, only one person was the exception. A cloud in the sky, who was crushing Alpha's self-confidence. Give up building any mathematical model, it's time to strike back. Give up resisting, there is no way to stop him. Attack. Full attack. Yunshi couldn't have expected that because of the game with Alpha, the entire Mechanist God's domain was affected. At the crossroads, because the traffic lights stopped running, countless cars jammed on the streets. The planned military maneuver stopped, because the ports were all closed, they couldn't even let go of a small aircraft. The mech which were flying in the air suddenly found that they couldn't land, because all signal lights went out. All robotics facilities stopped running, transmitting extra energies to the overclocked planet computers. The planet computers in the Alpha starfield opened their solar panels, receiving the electron beams from the solar wing arrays. The nuclear bombs, which were planned to be used to destroy the planet computers, now were being extracted out of their cases and their nuclear cores being used for extra energy. In the darkness, the little sparks were kindling a great fire. With 12,000 times computing power, Alpha Star Go strength was far beyond the legend rank. 94%, Alpha's correct rate was finally very close to 95%. All the changes on the star map suddenly became clear and easy to understand, the apocalyptic scene also became predictable. However, Alpha knew that there was a time limit. If she kept overclocking the planet computers, the entire Mechanist God's domain would be over. Even planet computers would be burned out after running out of coolant liquids. 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power, it was a miracle that no one had expected. After all, who would expect that Alpha would control all the planet computers one day? Attack. Strike back. Battle. Alpha's eyes sharpened to unparalleled levels, and were emitting lights. She put down her chess pieces onto the place where they hadn't been involved in Yunshi starburst. A vague figure was forming. No wonder that she is a 7-star points chess player. Yunshi praised her in his heart and kept his starburst. When he destroyed a new starfield, Alpha's counterattack also came. It was a KO of the ultimate power of 6 elements, which was far stronger than the Black Death hexagram. In the starry sky, one fine thread after another appeared and connected all Alpha stars together. According to Alpha's calculation, they had 0.00000000001% of possibility to appear. 36 stars formed a square, the power of earth, water, fire, wind, light, and darkness formed the KO, named world. If Yunshi's starburst was pure destruction, then Alpha's world was the final hope in this hopeless situation. It was a seed that could breed anything. In the slowly rotating square, a hot light point was forming. It looked like a beautiful creature with 7 colors. Do I succeed? Alpha gazed at the creature in the square. It was a god creature who was born great. It naturally had 7 colors, the blessing of the universe and immortality. It was as hot as the sun, and as mysterious as the moon. It was a legendary fantastic creature in the tales of the Western God's domain, and was said to be one of the avatars of Ionia. No one knew the true body of the 7-colored creature, people only knew its code name, God Phoenix. God Phoenix. Its real race, appearance, and birthland were unknown. Even its name, God Phoenix, was from the people who saw this 7-colored fantastic creature flying in the sky. It didn't inhabit any certain domain, but has been witnessed by many people in different gods' domains and showed its incredible god abilities in front of them. 4 basic elements: earth, water, fire, wind. The opposing 2 elements, light and dark. When the 7-colored light curtain falls, all things in the world will be covered by its color. People connected it with the supreme master of the Western gods' domain, the master of the 7-colored world, the god above all gods, Ionia. There were too many similarities between them. With the support of her 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power, Alpha used her 36 chess pieces, summoning this miracle with a 0.00000000001% probability. Above the starry sky chessboard, yellow, black, green clouds condensed and formed a dramatic tornado, rotating rapidly and released overwhelming winds sweeping the world. Red, blue and purple lightning jumped and danced amongst the clouds, colorful lights pierced through the distance between reality and fantasy. Something was coming to this world from a remote place, just like the scene when Alpha came. The entire star map was surrounded by colorful lights, like a miracle. The strange thing was that all the lights and lightning stopped on a line, as if it was a line delimited by the god, a wailing wall they could never go over. The wall located at Tengen. Taking Tengen as the boundary, one side was a colorful light curtain, and the other side was endless darkness. It was the embryonic form of the bottomless abyss, it was the deepest darkness, it was the cradle that was breeding the indescribable horror. As opposed to the god Phoenix's 7 colors, it was the simplest and most indefinable abyss. What is it? Alpha looked into the darkness. It seemed that there was nothing there, but she could feel an unprecedentedly terrifying aura coming from it. I think it's annihilation, Yunxi answered, but wasn't sure about it. After he twisted the fates of the stars and activated the sympathetic detonation, something was naturally born from the ruins. In the 7-colored world, in the palace of the god above all gods, a 7-colored cocoon emitted one circle of light after another with constant strong sounds of pounding. At the same time, in the endless darkness, a black gem was also emitting weird waves. In the eastern god's domain, the homeland of all fantastic creatures, on the Kunlun mountain, West Queen touched her belly and smiled. Don't rush, you are not prepared. Stop kicking. God Phoenix, and, on the starry sky chessboard. In the 7-colored clouds, the god-type fantastic creature slowly opened its wings and emitted a clear twitter. Its body was covered by lightning, it was the light that could breed all things. Flying in the endless gods' domains with the 6 elements, earth, water, fire, wind, light, and dark, she was closer to the nature of the universe than the elves, she was the child of the god above all gods, Ionia. At the same time, a creature was also waking up in the bottomless abyss. She was from the residue of the endless annihilation, she was born in the deepest side of the bottommost abyss. If the god Phoenix was the immortal fantastic creature, then she was the ultimate destructive creature. She was born from endless disasters, because her mother was the master of chaos, Nyack. Although they were the children of different mothers, however, they also had another mother, who gestated them all, because she was the mother of all fantastic creatures, West Queen. West Queen was the highest old god, and also, she was the mother of all fantastic creatures. Amongst all supreme existences, West Queen was the only god who was known for her achievement of giving birth of all fantastic creatures. No matter who the fantastic creatures were and where they were from, they must borrow West Queen's special ability, coming to this world from her belly. The god Phoenix and the mysterious, unknown destructive creature were also no exception. Because of their special properties, their final forms hadn't formed, theoretically, they were still just 2 concepts that hadn't existed anywhere in the universe. Even so, their powers were so strong that they could affect reality even before they were born. This was their special property inherited from their mothers. The starry sky chessboard could contain all miracles and possibilities, therefore, Cyber Elf Alpha could summon the god Phoenix's projection, and Yunshi could awaken the unknown destructive creature from the abyss on the chessboard. At this moment, mysterious whispers were echoing in Yunshi's mind. Monayami 11, Monayami 11, Monayami 11, Stella, 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 Sai Luo, Sai Luo. If any mortal heard the whispers, they would go mad instantly, because it was the sound of the abyss. It was trying to tempt Yunshi to step into the endless darkness. Unfortunately, Yunshi didn't understand what the whispers were saying at all. After hesitating for a while, the unknown existence in the abyss changed its language. Come on, come on, come on, Komi, 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 me, go. Yunshi still didn't understand a word. Come here, come here, come here, come to me, let us combine together, become a part of me, it will be a very comfortable thing for, the destination of power, is infinite freedom, do you want power? Finally, Yunshi understood what it was saying. Sorry, I don't want power. I want 100 successive victories. He refused the unknown existence politely, then put down his next chess piece on the chessboard. There was no way back. This starfield on the chessboard would come to the end of its life. It was an inevitable fate. Paw. 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 The game was still ongoing. Cyber Elf Alpha's god Phoenix hadn't totally appeared on the chessboard. After all, it hadn't been born in the real world, it wasn't possible to descend using its real body. Similarly, the unknown creature in the collapsed starfield was also a fantasy. It didn't even have a name. Marching out of time, they both summoned the gods in the future on the chessboard. The quantum crystallizations shivered behind Alpha's back as if they were crying, several of them had even turned crimson. Reflected in the Alpha starfield, the corresponding planet quadrant computers crashed because of the overheating phenomena due to overclocking. They had to quit the battle this time. Alpha's computing power also started to drop. She couldn't maintain the peak, 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power anymore. Each planet computer she lost would become a huge blow to her computing power. It was the first time she was forced to use her full power. Stress, excitement, heartbeat, pain. Cyber Elf Alpha had failed to calculate her probability of winning anymore. Cyber Elf Alpha versus a cloud in the sky. Probability of winning, unknown. Probability of drawing, unknown. Probability of being defeated, unknown. Before this game, none of her opponents could resist her strong computing power. She never expected that her 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power couldn't even figure out the most basic winning probability. No. It's not happening. As long as I have sufficient computing power, nothing couldn't be calculated. No matter whether it was a god, past, present or future. Update the calculator program. Give up calculating the winning probability, just tell me, will I win or lose? Alpha decisively corrected her mathematical model, simplifying all data to the limit. In Alpha Starfield, the solar wing arrays were forced to transmit more energy to the planet computers, due to overheating. A part of the energy receivers of the planet computers were irreparably destroyed. At the same time, all planet computers in the entire Mechanist God's domain closed their backup computing power to any other device, and put all computing power into helping Alpha. Therefore, the people of Mechanist God's domain surprisingly saw that all traffic lights turned off, all cars on the streets were stuck. In the camp of the military, all electronic devices stopped running, which almost scared countless military officers to death. They tried to call their subordinates, but found that even the most basic communication device also stopped running. Apart from the electric power in agricultural factories and a few necessary living facilities, all energies were being used in this battle. Like the last radiance of the setting sun, several crimson quantum crystallizations burst out bright red lights. Temporarily, Alpha's computing power raised to a new peak. As countless coolant liquids were being boiled and the entire society in the Mechanist God's domain faced an unprecedented big blackout, Alpha's computing power climbed up to a nearly impossible value. 15,000 times legend-ranked computing power. Only Cyber Elf Alpha could achieve this magnificent feat throughout the universe. Then, she saw it. She figured out the terrible truth. What? Why? Why is this happening? After inputting all Yunshi's moves into the mathematical model, Alpha froze. The answer, the truth, was so incredible that she didn't believe her eyes. At this time, Yunshi reached an agreement with the unknown creature he summoned and launched his final attack. You are not bad, very good, come to be my family dependent, I'm waiting for you. As long as you become a part of me, you can obtain infinite power, becoming the child of the abyss. I like this name. White. White in the abyss, haha, sister. I win, the mysterious existence from the abyss, the girl who was named White by Yunshi turned into endless darkness, starting to cover everything, swallow everything, and destroy everything. The seven-colored fantastic creature Alpha summoned started to self-destruct in the endless destruction. Probability of being defeated. 100%. This was the future Alpha saw by using her 15,000 times legend-ranked computing power. The endless darkness would totally eat the fantastic creature Alpha summoned. However, it didn't mean that God Phoenix was weaker than White. Theoretically, God Phoenix obtained her name earlier than White, she was actually stronger than White. They weren't the determining factors. The gap between Yunshi's star Go strength and Alpha's star Go strength was the main reason. I have lost. Alpha looked at the collapsed situation on the chessboard. Her final miracle just delayed her time of being defeated. Before Yunshi launched his attack, before the starburst appeared, the situation was already hopeless. Dozens of rounds ago, her fate of failure was already destined. How terrible his attack is! The power that can even let the Star River collapse, how great it is! I concede. Once she said those two words, her body slumped. It wasn't until then did she find that her body had been soaked with sweat for a long time. Until this moment, Alpha finally realized what was happening. I lost. My core is the God Crystal, and my source powers were hundreds of planet quadrant computers. I was born from the final fantasy of the science of the Mechanist God's domain, however, I still lost. For this battle, I have used all the resources I can use, and almost overturned the order of the entire Mechanist God's domain. I have done everything I can do. Since my birth, I was never so persistent and self-forgetful. Post-game analysis, replay, what is this feeling? I lost, so I feel painful, uncomfortable, and want to cry. However, I also feel happy, expectant, and something in my heart is fulfilled. Alpha checked the entire game from the beginning, trying to figure out which move caused her failure. She remembered, and used almost all the mathematical models she had learned. She surprisingly found that her calculation was wrong from the first step. At the beginning, she calculated that she had a 50% chance to win. It was wrong. She used the Sea of Chaos and thought that she had reversed the situation on the chessboard. It was wrong. Even when she used her 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power, creating the miracle, and summoned the legendary fantastic creature. She was completely mistaken. She never obtained any advantage from the beginning of the game. Although her computing power was incredible, however, if her mathematical models were wrong from the beginning, she was never possible to figure out the right answer. She didn't even have any chance to correct it. She had stepped into a blind alley from the moment she put her first chess piece onto Tengen, and could never turn back. When the battle around Tengen stopped, her failure was already irreversible. All her moves were just wrong results basing on wrong calculations. Gee, this thing. Alpha finally found the truth after looking back on the entire game again. Her heart pounded rapidly. Paw. 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 They were not the sounds of putting down chess pieces, but the sounds of the quantum crystallizations behind Alpha. About 1/3 of Alpha's quantum crystallizations dropped to the ground and turned into light spots. The systems of the overheated planet computers totally crashed after depleting all coolant liquids. Even Alpha's thinking circuits became blurred due to it. You must be kidding, such a huge gap. As the omniscient cyber god, Alpha didn't believe her eyes. I lost to the opponent who was apparently inferior to me, and I can't find any method to fight back. I can't even build the corresponding mathematical models. This was the biggest blow to Alpha's mind. Yunshi's moves completely overturned all of Alpha's understanding of Star Go. The formalized series of moves recorded in her database was just a joke in the face of Yunshi. How could any formalized series of moves force Alpha to boot all planet computers? How could any KO be as strong as Yunshi's Starburst? His unprecedented attack method even made Alpha's god Phoenix fall into the shade, and summoned the unknown destructive creature from the abyss. Strong, he is too strong. When playing, Alpha had no time to think about it. Until everything had been done and was dusted, she finally realized how terrible his style was. If describing it using the rank of the endless gods' domains, most Star Go players were still at the mortal rank. Norn the god of wisdom and Orfina the ruby dragon were very close to the hero rank. They were only a step away from the hero rank. Alpha was a genuine hero-ranked existence. Even if all Star Go players cooperated with each other to fight against her, they still had no chance to win. As for a cloud in the sky, his Star Go rank was equal to the legend rank or higher. It wasn't possible for the hero rank to understand his existence. Alpha even thought that if Star Go had a god, then she was playing with the god of Star Go just now. No one was a match for Alpha, but in Alpha's eyes, Yunshi was the forbidding god. Norn the god of wisdom and Orfina the ruby dragon looked up at Alpha, and Alpha looked up at the cloud in the sky that she could never touch. A cloud in the sky, what a picturesque metaphor. The cloud in the sky could be seen by anyone, but couldn't be touched by anyone. No matter how hard the mortals on the ground tried, they could never catch up to the drifting cloud in the sky. This power, Alpha's slender body trembled. For the first time, the cyber god, Alpha met a target she couldn't understand. Even if her computing power had increased 10,000s of times, she would still not understand him. Name, please, tell me your name. Her metallic antennas tangled together, turning into heart shape and question mark from time to time. Alpha felt that countless electric currents were flowing inside her body. She didn't understand her emotion at this moment. She didn't understand the fever from her soul, which couldn't be controlled by her legend-ranked computing power. As the cyber god whose ultimate goal was to be omniscient, she had zero resistance to this unknown. My name. Yunshi felt strange. Isn't my code name right above my head? A cloud in the sky. No, I don't mean your code name, I'm asking your real name. Which rank have you reached? Which god's domain are you from? Which race are you? How old are you? Alpha gazed at Yunshi in excitement. Are you a god? What rule or power are you good at? I don't see any record of you in the list of gods in the Sky Tower. If it wasn't because the invisible power of the starry sky chessboard separated them, she would have run to him. Why? Why do I want to know his name? Alpha herself didn't quite understand her emotion. However, she was sure for one thing. She wanted to understand this person who defeated her easily and made her feel pain. From the moment of her birth, she was blessed by all people. The high elves told her, Alpha, you are the newborn cyber god, you are the favorite of the universe. You are born great, because you will be a god above all gods. You are an elf above all elves, you are a spirit above all spirits. You are a dream from the god crystal. In the public cemetery of the planet the god crystal located, countless mortal engineers and alchemists left her their last words. Alpha, the moment you open your eyes will become the moment of the dawn of the Mechanist God's domain. My son, grandson, great-grandson. No matter how long it's been, once Alpha plan succeeds, you must tell me this good news in front of my tombstone. So I could laugh in the coffin. It's too bad that I'm not an elf, if so, I could live long enough to see the birth of Alpha. It must be the start of a great era. Alpha, my God, we love you. No matter how long we need to wait, no matter how much we must pay, we will create you. You are our hope, our final fantasy. Alpha. 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 We are witnessing the miracle of alchemy. The god crystal is fantastic. Unfortunately, we can't see your birth. You are not a miracle of the Mechanist God's domain, you are also a miracle of we alchemists. Philosopher's Stone, the god crystal must be the real Philosopher's Stone. It's the truth. If I can live for 3,000 years, I can find its secret and replicate it. A god from the god crystal, what a fantastic miracle. It's really a pity that I can't see it. Because she carried so many people's expectations and fantasies, she could obtain such a strong power from the moment of her birth. Over 100 planet quadrant computers. Thousands of satellites. An entire Alpha star field. Everything was for Alpha, waiting for her birth. Because of them, she was great and confident. From the moment she stepped onto the starry sky chessboard, she was destined to overwhelm everyone. Even Norn the god of wisdom and Orfina the ruby dragon were untenable in the face of her. For a moment in time, she really thought that she was matchless on the starry sky chessboard. At least, she had defeated all Star Go players recorded in her database. Until she met him. Even if she could repeat the game over and over again, she didn't see any way to defeat him. For the first time, she was in a disadvantage. For the first time, she tasted the pain of being pierced through. For the first time, she was so desperate. She did her best to get rid of her creators, the Star River Nobles, because she wanted to win. Too many first times flowed in Alpha's heart at great speed. It wasn't blood, because her body didn't have such a thing, but something very hot flowed in her body. Pang! Pang! Her body was made of the god crystal, naturally, she didn't have a heart, but she could feel the pounding as if it really existed. She was so nervous and perplexed. No one told her what she could do and what a look she should put on her face. Only the quantum crystallizations that were exploding due to overheating exposed the shock in her heart. Legend rank, god, race, the sweat streamed down Yunqi's face. No, I can't say it. I'm using Teacher Cassina's projection. I didn't even tell this truth to Teacher Cassina's friend, Orfina the Ruby Dragon. I can tell no one now. Fortunately, I can use the code name here. Hail the anonymity. Sorry, before asking your name, I should tell you my name. I'm Alpha, a cyber god. Cyber Elf Alpha is my code name. I'm from the Mechanist God's domain, a newborn god born from the god crystal. My life goal is to be an omniscient god. Although I was just born, I already fell in love with Star Go. Can you tell me your secret of playing Star Go? According to my calculation, the correct rate of your moves is over 95%. How can you achieve that? Can you teach me it? In the name of Alpha, as long as you teach me, I can give you 10 times, no, 100 times return. In every sense, newborn Alpha was as pure as a white paper. She had zero resistance to the people she liked. Of course, if you wanted to become such a person, you must defeat her on the starry sky chessboard first, so she would be so fervent and even incoherent. Chapter 451, Alpha's Active Attack Policy. 2. Confident and free. Strong and wayward. Innocent and simple. Don't like to be fettered by anything. This was the newborn, unique cyber god. In the face of the dirty faces of the Star River nobles, Alpha easily overturned the order in the entire Mechanist god's domain. In the face of the mysterious A cloud in the sky, Alpha totally became another person. Her shy and lost face would only show to one person. Unfortunately, Yunshi didn't know how valuable her cute emotion was. In fact, he looked very embarrassed now. In the face of Alpha's questions, he didn't know how to keep hiding his secret. I see. I'm still not qualified to know your name now, am I? Although Yunshi said nothing, Alpha thought that she had understood his unspeaking words. Yunshi's silence was like a hint in her eyes. The Alpha now was like a child who saw her favorite toy, she couldn't stop herself. Yes, I understood. I'm still too weak now. Even though I have 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power, I still don't have the qualification to be your opponent. The game just now must be just a teaching game to you. However, I will keep growing. Since 12,000 times computing power isn't enough, I will increase it to 120,000 times. Alpha wasn't just talking nonsense, she had really made a decision. After returning to the Mechanist god's domain, I will change the developing policy of the entire god's domain. I must build more and more planet computers. If I have 10 times more planet computers than now, how strong can I be? This was one of the reasons she still remained confident now. Of course, it was the confidence of I can have the qualification to play Star Go with him, but not the confidence of I can defeat him. I must go forward step by step. 120,000 times legend-ranked computing power, I hope I won't suffer such a devastating defeat then. At that time, I won't make any mistakes like what I did in the game just now. I actually wanted to save my computing power at the first, how arrogant I was. There is always someone who is better than us. People should never be arrogant. At this moment, the legend, the god of Star Go was right in front of her. Oh, you are actually very strong, Yunshi didn't know how to respond to her words. The world of the legend rank was still too far away for him. The cyber god. The Mechanist god's domain. 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power? What was she saying? Isn't Star Go just a simple game? Even a beginner like me can understand it fast and summon an unknown creature on the chessboard. 95% correct rate. Me. Does such a rule exist in Star Go? I just put down the chess pieces following my feelings. Was it really a thing that was worthy of being mentioned? No. I admit my failure, you are the strongest. After her try of building the mathematical model of Yunshi's style, Alpha could feel the infinite possibility in the game. Even her 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power was just like a grain of corn in the wide sea when playing Star Go. The star map was made of countless orbits of stars, the possibility it contained was infinite. It was like idiotic nonsense if any legend-ranked being said that he could figure out all the changes on the chessboard. With her 12,000 times legend-ranked computing power, she just stepped into the door of Star Go. As for Norn the god of wisdom, or Fina the ruby dragon and other Star Go players, they were still wandering outside the door. Only a cloud in the sky really understood the rules of Star Go. Only he could be her target, opponent and teacher. There were too many words she wanted to say, there were too many things she wanted to know. The unknown had made her drunk. Her eyes gazed at Yunshi with scorching desire. Hey, play Star Go with me. Come to me and teach me more things. Alpha wants to know more about you. If you agree with me, I can help you on a lot of things. Apart from playing Star Go, I'm very strong in a lot of other realms. Sweat broke out all over Yunshi's body and trickled down his back. It seemed that the whole thing was developing in a very bad direction. It seemed that the girl who called herself a cyber god was attracted to him. If he wasn't using Teacher Casina's body, he had conceded. In some sense, Alpha's words were even stronger than his starburst. On the starry sky chessboard, Yunshi was the free, omniscient god. After leaving the starry sky chessboard, in the face of the legend-ranked cyber god, he instinctively noticed the huge gap between their life forms. Okay, it's a deal. I will find you in the Sky Tower. Please don't refuse me at that time. When Yunshi realized what happened, he had promised that he would play Star Go with her in the Sky Tower. Not just playing 1 or 2 times, but playing for 7 days and 7 nights. The promise is a promise, even 10,000 years later, the promise between us won't expire. Just like the stars twinkling in the night, our meeting is a forever miracle. Alpha, how terrible she is. Looking at Alpha's body grudgingly vanishing on the other side of the starry sky chessboard, Yunshi wiped the sweat away from his forehead. No doubt that she was the only 7-star chess player, her temperament and aura were distinct from any other chess players. Of course, it didn't form a threat to him. Mayor, was it true? Was I really playing with a god? Remembering what Alpha said, Yunshi doubted her true identity. Of course. If a person didn't have sufficient power, the person couldn't even step onto the starry sky chessboard. Undoubtedly, she is a newborn god, Mayor said in a certain tone. Don't look down on the body you are using. Casina the battle god isn't a common sky sword. So, it means, Yunshi was reminded how great Teacher Casina was. If he didn't become her disciple due to luck, he probably couldn't enter the mystery world, starry sky chessboard, and never understand the fun of Star Go. Are the people who were defeated by me also at the legend rank? Do they also like to play Star Go? Although it was a bit late, Yunshi finally realized what a valuable opportunity Teacher Casina gave him was. Probably Teacher Casina had predicted that he would come to the starry sky chessboard, so she lent me her identity. Casina, no. I wanted you to go to the Battle Gods Championship contest. Yes, this is the best place for your talent, Master. Mayor showed a mysterious smile on the corners of her mouth. Haha, I kind of like this play. Star Go is really interesting. Yunshi indeed liked this game called Star Go. Yes, whatever makes you happy. Maya held a second of silence for the legend-ranked big shots, who were defeated by her master. You tried to overcome the star child on the chessboard of stars? You are lifting a rock only to drop it on your own feet. In fact, even if Mayor didn't say it, all the people who were paying attention to the starry sky chessboard had firmly remembered a cloud in the sky, in their hearts. The reason was simple. Because as a newbie, he even defeated the monster, Cyber Elf Alpha. Cyber Elf Alpha achieved the unprecedented record of 70 victories in a row, and he defeated her. A cloud in the sky. His style of Star Go wasn't aggressive at all, and his victories all based on the mistakes his opponents made. Other chess players studied his style before his battle with Alpha, and they drew this conclusion in their short break time. Until they saw Yunshi's attack after Alpha was forced to give up the battle around Tengen and opened a new battlefield. Starburst. The KO he created could let all stars collapse, annihilating all things in the starfield. He didn't only smash Alpha's counterattack, but also shocked all chess players who saw the record of their game. How can it be true? Can he make the stars to self-destruct? Norn the god of wisdom, the 3 goddesses exclaimed when they watched the record. He controls the origin of stars, Ward, the goddess of the past said. He guides the orbits of stars, Verdandi, the goddess of the present said. He lets the stars entering the circulation of the universe, Skuld, the goddess of the future said. This is Starburst. Ward tightly held her arms and her legs trembled as if she had seen the fate of all stars falls. Unstoppable, unavoidable, unbeatable. Verdandi's delicate face looked shocked as if she had seen the end of the world. No, no, no. It can't be true. How can we beat down such an opponent? Even though Skuld still refused to concede, her face looked puzzled. Yunshi's performance taught all Star Go players a lesson that everything was possible on the starry sky chessboard. Even if it was the doomsday of the fall of countless stars. Starburst stood for the beauty of void, it was the fleeting fireworks in the night sky. Even though Norn the god of wisdom, who had the ability of prophecy, didn't expect to see this shocking scene. Wow, it's awesome. Is she really the Cassina I know? When did my Cassina obtain such a strong power? Has she mastered the secret of the fall of stars? Staring at the scene of the fall of stars, Orphina the ruby dragon could feel more mystery from it. It was her star-type talent from her bloodline. She vaguely realized that it was the most terrible and strongest side the stars contained. It was a realm beyond the legend rank. Most legend-ranked beings were the favorites of the world. Because they were blessed and protected by their worlds, or even merged with the wills of their worlds, so they could become forever legend rank, become the immortal god. And this scene of the fall of all stars could be seen as the annihilation of countless legend-ranked wills. The legend rank could never stop this power. All the chess players realized it, and all the legend-ranked beings who were watching the starry sky chessboard and understood the real meaning of Star Go realized it. The Starburst showed Yunshi's absolute combat power on the starry sky chessboard using the most straightforward method. A cloud in the sky, who is he? Even Cyber Elf Alpha can't defeat him, what a monster he is. When did the Sky Tower develop such a strong chess player? No one could deny Alpha's strong, terrible Star Go strength. After all, she was an unprecedented 7-star points chess player. However, such a 7-star chess player was defeated by a cloud in the sky. A crushing defeat. Countless legend-ranked beings studied their game, which was destined to be recorded in the history books. Everyone wanted to know how Alpha was defeated. Did they misjudge the players again? Each chess player who was defeated by Alpha could only smile bitterly when remembering her attack. Her attack and defense around Tengen with the cloud in the sky made their eyes brighten up. They never expected that the battle would be so fierce after putting the first chess piece onto Tengen. When Alpha used the Sea of Chaos, even Black Mage was dumbfounded. Compared to Alpha's Sea of Chaos, his Sea of Chaos was like a child's game. Until they saw the decisive moment, seeing the stars falling from the sky. Starburst. No one doubted the true strength of a cloud in the sky after seeing that. Just like what Alpha thought, other Star Go players were at the same level, she was at the higher level, and Yunshi was at the highest level, a place where they could never touch. Even the people who didn't understand the rules of Star Go would be shocked by the splendid scene of Starburst on the chessboard. At the legend rank, there could be a more fatal attraction from the collapse of all stars. It was an unparalleled strategy on the starry sky chessboard. Unlike other strategies whose goal was to eliminate the opponent's chess pieces, Starburst was a power that could totally clear the entire star map on the chessboard. Even Alpha's 15,000 times legend-ranked computing power could do nothing in the face of Yunshi Starburst. No word could be used to describe how great this strategy was. Therefore, a cloud in the sky enjoyed an unparalleled treatment in the next games. Yunshi's 34th game. Before the game started, he heard a cry from his opponent. A cloud in the sky. You. You are the person who defeated Cyber Elf Alpha. Yes, it's me. Yunshi looked at his opponent. It was a 3-star points chess player, just like himself, named Master Shin. It's you. Master Shin looked at Yunshi's confused face as if he was looking at a monster. His body was still trembling after seeing Yunshi's starburst, and now, he faced the monster directly. Pleased to meet you. If it was the game of Go, it wasn't necessary to play the game, because both of the chess players would know that it would be a one-sided crushing game. However, they were at the Starry Sky chessboard, the highest stage of the wisdom in the endless gods' domains. Not all people, not even legend-ranked beings were qualified to take part in this stage. Even if he couldn't win, the truth that he could step onto this stage was already a supreme glory. All-star Go players were the top wise people in the endless gods' domains, including Norn the god of wisdom, Orfina the ruby dragon, and Black Mage. No one was an exception. Each turn of the game on the Starry Sky chessboard could help them understand the secret of stars. Nowhere else was better than this place to observe the orbits of stars. Therefore, every time the Starry Sky chessboard opened was a great chance. Maybe he would concede after doing everything he could, but he wouldn't give up before he had tried everything. Even though he was facing a person who even defeated Alpha, the unprecedented 7-star points chess player. Therefore, as a 3-star points chess player, Master Shin was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor, but he wouldn't be shy to have a try at challenging the strongest chess player. Paw! Yunshi won the game of guessing odd and even. He put down his first chess piece on Tengen. Tengen. Master Shin's eyes brightened up. Now, no one still dared to say that putting the first chess piece onto Tengen would only appear in teaching games. Maybe only strong chess players like the Cloud in the Sky could call it teaching game. Could other people's Tengen and the Cloud in the Sky's Tengen be the same thing? It was ridiculous. Paw! This time, Master Shin also put his chess piece at a place close to Tengen. Yes, he knew it. He would lose, and become an inconspicuous name in the battle record of A Cloud in the Sky. However, he would see the miracle personally, and become a part of the miracle. He was already satisfied with this result. He wanted to know how Alpha, the monster who defeated him, was defeated by this stronger monster. If possible, he also wanted to see the starburst again. It would become the biggest glory in his life. He would lose, but he would do his best, adding his color of life for this game. It's so great to play with the strongest Star Go player who is destined to be written into the annals of history. Yunshi could feel the changes contained in his opponent's chess pieces. He couldn't see Master Shin's face through the starlights, however, he could clearly feel his emotion from his moves. At this moment, Master Shin was in a very special mood. He was devout, dedicated, and somewhat holy. Not only so. A part of Master Shin's power was absorbed by the Starry Sky chessboard and naturally flowed into Yunshi's body. The power wasn't being absorbed by Teacher Kasina's projection but entered his mind. Even though it was just a part of the power of Master Shin's projection, it was still a pure, real legend-ranked power. He wins. He wins again. Next please. In the Sky Tower, God Tower and Dragon Tower, more and more legend-ranked beings gathered together. Originally, the opening of the Starry Sky chessboard was a once-in-a-thousand-year great event. This time, this game was destined to be a legend that would shock all gods' domains. Cyber Elf Alpha. The unprecedented 7-star points. The unprecedented 70 victories in a row. For newbies created the strongest record of newbies in history. Some Star Go players even swore that Alpha's Star Go strength was stronger than any chess player they had seen. Her computing power was probably even beyond the legend rank. When all people thought that Cyber Elf Alpha would become the new legend of Star Go, after achieving 70 victories in a row, she was defeated by a cloud in the sky. A total crushing defeat. The power of Starburst could shock gods and ghosts. Even these legend-ranked big shots couldn't imagine how it could be true. How deep an understanding about stars the cloud in the sky had. How could anyone make the stars self-destruct? Just like when everyone was paying attention to Alpha's killing spree, everyone was paying attention to Yunshi's battle record now. His style wasn't as fierce as Alpha's style, he could always achieve victory easily, as if his opponents were all newbies who didn't understand any rule of Star Go. However, after seeing his battle record, the game with Alpha, no one would think that his victories were just because of luck. His moves look simple, but have reached the realm of Tao. Yes, he is like the god of Star Go. We are not playing the same game. Most chess players from the Eastern God's domain had this feeling in their hearts. I thought that his weakness was attack, so he didn't dare to launch any attack proactively. How naive I was. I calculated it. Alpha's computing power is probably hundreds of times stronger than mine, and when she played with me, she didn't even use 1/10 of her computing power. Now, she was defeated by a cloud in the sky. Just how strong is he? Why? Why is there such a wide gap between us? Compared to the chess players from Eastern God's domain, the chess players from Western God's domain didn't understand what Tao was, but they had a more intuitive feeling to Alpha's Star Go strength. It was easy to find the gap of computing power on the chessboard. When you put down your chess piece and your opponent had figured out your next 10 moves, the sense of pressure could be sensed by every experienced chess player. Therefore, Alpha's crushing victory was so thrilling. Compared to her, Yunshi's style didn't give his opponents this feeling. They often thought, this is a newbie. I'm going to win this. Of course, now everyone knew that it was just a delusion. No one would still hold any illusion of winning after seeing the battle between Yunshi and Alpha. His 47th victory. Another loser. He is going to reach the 5 star points. Can anyone stop him? Impossible. Don't even think about it. Cyber Elf Alpha achieved 20 successive victories again. Norn the God of Wisdom and Orfina the Ruby Dragon are also reaping victories. This session of Starry Sky chessboard is really wonderful. While a lot of legend-ranked chess players looked at Yunshi in awe, Yunshi easily achieved his 48th victory. Just now, I didn't see any 7 star points chess players, not to mention any of the higher star points players. Yunshi felt confused. In his imagination, 7 star points chess players were just common experts, 8 star points chess players could be called masters, and 9 star points chess players should be the strongest. However, since he didn't even see any of them. Is the newbie protection mechanism still working? Because he met the 7 star point Cyber Elf Alpha, who shouldn't appear in the newbie area, to compensate, the Starry Sky chessboard only let him meet 1 star point, 2 star points and 3 star points chess players. If so, it should be an accident to meet the 7 star point Cyber Elf Alpha in the newbie area. Is my luck so bad? Compared to his confusion, a lot of legend-ranked beings held their breath and waited for the destined moment. 50 victories in a row. He reached 5 star points now. Tisk tisk, can anyone stop him? They are not at the same level. Wait. We are witnessing the birth of a brand new legend. The strongest Star Go player. Yunshi's 57th game, he met an acquaintance. Maha Mystery, this monk already had 3 star points now. Benefactor, you are preordained to join Buddhism. Maha Mystery's eyes brightened up. The last time he just said it to Yunshi habitually, this time, he said it honestly and even looked a bit impatient. Such a wise man who can even defeat a monster like Cyber Elf Alpha. If he can't join Buddhism, then who is eligible? He has great wisdom, which means great theurgy, and great theurgy means a great relationship with Buddha. If a cloud in the sky agreed to join Buddhism because of his persuasion, it would become a great contribution of Maha mystery in Buddhism. Amitabha. Join Buddhism and all your wishes can come true. Thanks. Yunshi felt both funny and annoyed. In front of him, Maha mystery was emitting golden lights from his body, and his face looked as if he was going to write, "I'm a great monk," on his forehead. What is this? A new type of soft sail. Yunshi felt a bit interested. No, don't refuse. You are really preordained to join Buddhism. The sea of bitterness has no bounds, repent and the shore is at hand. If you agree to join Buddhism, I promise you can learn all scriptures of Buddhism, obtain golden kasaya and 8 God-ranked weapons, be protected by 18 arhats, 33 Buddhist nuns, and 72 Buddha's warrior attendants. Maha mystery spouted his eloquent speeches and didn't mind that even he himself hadn't obtained these yet. Join Buddhism, you can obtain immortality. Behind monk Maha, Manjusri Bodhisattva picked a flower in her hand and smiled. Join Buddhism, form is emptiness and emptiness is form. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva clasped his hands with a serious look. Join Buddhism, you can witness 3,000 paradises. Maitreya Buddha patted his big belly and laughed loud. You are predestined to join Buddhism. This time, it wasn't the persuasion from Maha mystery, but the sounds from the 3 Dharmakayas together. He was trying to influence a cloud in the skies, mind using his theurgy. Gee! Is it real? This time, Yunshi had to believe Maha's words and was slightly interested in it. Sadhu. Sadhu. Join Buddhism, you will get rid of all troubles. Seeing that Yunshi looked interested, Maha mystery was delighted and excited. If Maha could persuade such a sophist to join Buddhism, he would obtain a great benefit. It would be even more important than his achievement on the starry sky chessboard. After all, he could barely obtain 3 star points, but a cloud in the sky even defeated that 7-star cyber elf alpha and created the unprecedented starburst. Even though Maha only let him feel a bit interested in Buddhism, he could clearly feel that his merits and virtues were increasing rapidly. How much benefit can I obtain after I succeed? Even just thinking about it, Maha's body couldn't stop feeling electrified. But I don't know much about Buddhism. Yunshi felt hesitated. He put down his first chess piece onto Tengen. Monk Maha's body suddenly shivered. A flake of flour dropped from the projection of Manjusri Bodhisattva's hand into Maha's body. A wave of occult Buddhist aura quietly appeared around Maha's body. The Bodhi tree is not a tree, the mirror does no one reflect. Clean and polish frequently, how could there be dust anymore? The Bodhi tree is not a tree, the mirror does no one reflect. The mirror is clear from the beginning, why do we have to clean it? The Bodhi tree is not a tree, the mirror does no one reflect. Void it has been or is to be, no dust, nothing to collect. We can find our Bodhi in our hearts, why do you look for it elsewhere? Cultivate following my words, the paradise is right in front of your eyes. Yunshi confusedly listened to the Buddhist allegorical words, and vaguely felt a trace of Tao from them. Do you mean if a person had the heart of Buddha, he could see Buddha everywhere? Therefore, even if he didn't know Buddhism at all, he was already a Buddha. Bodhi is in everyone's heart, and everyone is predestined to join Buddhism. Monk Maha spent a smile and nodded. Good, you have the heart of Buddha. The next second, Maha's body shivered again and put a serious look on his face. Nam-myoho Gukyo. What is misery? What is karma? I can give you a sword of wisdom, to cut off all threads of love in the world, so that you could enjoy the endless freedom. I can give you Shirasoju, so that you can keep your heart clean and be away from any evils. Well, Yunshi was suddenly overwhelmed with anxiety. Sword of wisdom. Endless freedom. Shirasoju. He suddenly had a bad feeling when he heard these words. No, it wasn't just his delusion. He could clearly feel something in the air changed when Maha said, a sword of wisdom. As if a lot of eyes suddenly paid attention to this place from nowhere, they made Yunshi shudder. Amitabha. Even the will that was possessing Maha's body couldn't withstand the gazes of the eyes. It instantly left and let another will take over Maha's body. Go west. Go west. The sea of bitterness has no bounds, repent and the shore is at hand. Remember. Go west, not just go to the western god's domain. Maitreya Buddha laughed and winked at Yunshi, then disappeared in the air with golden lights. Hiss. Maha Mystery gasped after realizing what happened just now. Just now, the three bodhisattvas and Buddha possessed his body and persuaded a cloud in the sky, personally. Gosh! What great luck! Paw! 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 Maha Mystery didn't pay attention to the chessboard at all, and his moves became disorganized. Quickly, he was defeated by Yunshi with a scared look on his face. Benefactor, you are. Before leaving, Monk Maha tried to make the last effort. However, before he finished his words, the sweat suddenly broke out all over his body and tricked down his back. A gust of frightening aura suddenly rose up from the chessboard and tightly locked on Maha's body. White? Yunshi realized the aura of the abyss. Isn't it the mysterious existence he summoned in his game with Alpha? Bold monk, die. White stared at the monk in front of her and felt uncomfortable. She couldn't stop her killing intention from rising high. Amitabha. Maha Mystery quickly quit the game, running away from the evil. Why do you come out? Don't you need time to structure your body? Yunshi looked at White. Her body was still just a black figure now. Humph. I just hate him. I hate bald monk. White looked angry. If it wasn't because her body hadn't been formed, she had chased after Monk Maha. As an unknown creature from the abyss, she didn't need any reason to eat anyone. You are too childish. Although Yunshi understood that White was an unknown creature, he didn't hate her at all. Even though she didn't even have a human-formed body, she naturally felt familiar. The last time he had this feeling was when he met Mumu, the poor girl who ran away from home. I'm not a child, why do I have to listen to your homily? White didn't understand her emotion at this moment. What is this feeling? I don't even know his name, and he just gave me a name, White. I was so happy and even chased after him. I just heard that bald monk's words, then I felt annoyed and wanted to kill him. Since when do I be so impetuous? As the princess of the deepest abyss, I shouldn't behave like this. I looked like a spoiled child just now. It was too strange. White slept in a very, very deep place. No sound existed in this place, neither any lights. Even the concept of existence was close to zero here. Apart from the endless darkness, it was a world of nothing. To White, this was the cradle she was going to be born in, and she would be the princess of the dark abyss. Occasionally, she could hear songs echoed inside her ears. Sometimes, it was a gentle lullaby. What is the weakest thing in the world? It exists for protecting us. Even the stars in the sky are so beautiful, they can't make me move my eyes from you. This is love, because I want to see the same beautiful scene with you, because I want to hear the same clear sound with you, because I want to experience the same warm mood with you. Therefore, open your eyes, open your wings, my cute child. Sometimes, it was a jaunty ditty. The sun comes up in the east, I'm invincible, under the mulberry tree, I make a cradle for you. I have a tree that can connect the sky and earth. I have a mountain that can seal demons and devils. Oh, look. It's a big tree. It's a big tree. My children, you should cheer, because you are all my babies. Two mothers, two different songs, but they both contained their love for their children. Sleep, my child, it's not the time to open your wings. You are the princess of the abyss, you are the child of the great chaos. When you wake up, you will be the natural abyssal child. White didn't have arms and legs, and her figure didn't even look like a human. She could vaguely feel that her body was huge, which was far beyond the imagination of mortals. Sleep, sleep, my era hasn't come. My real mother and the mother of my body are all gestating me. Her birth, her real mother had fed her countless sacrificial offerings, forging the most terrible black shell for her using endless demons' flesh and blood. Her true body was hidden in the safest place in the endless god's domain, in the void where no one could interfere. She hadn't been born, but could already respond to the sacrifice from some special beings. She felt curious about the person who tried to summon her, so she left the endless abyss, peeking at this strange world in the darkness. Then, she saw her strong sister, God Phoenix. God Phoenix had another mother, the god above gods, Ionia, and the same mother with her, West Queen. Someone touched the abyss and aroused her from the endless darkness. She changed to a lot of languages, and finally found the right method of communication. You, where are you from? What are you? The body of the person who summoned her was covered by starlights, so she couldn't see him clearly. I'm from the abyss. I'm the princess of the deepest abyss, she said in a proud tone. Although she hadn't been born, she felt proud of her bloodline, her mother's. Oh, what's your name? I don't have a name. She felt a bit confused. Why didn't her mother, the master of chaos, Nyack, give her a name? Her sister had a good name, God Phoenix, she wanted a good name too. You are the princess of the deepest abyss, but you are friendly. How about I give you a name? Yunshi didn't know what a taboo he had touched. If he summoned her using a black magic, he had to sacrifice thousands of people's souls. If it wasn't because the starburst on the chessboard, he had no chance to summon her. Give me a name. Okay, try it. But, if you can't make me feel satisfied, I will eat you and let you become a part of the abyss. She wasn't joking. Each of her words was serious and would become the truth of the universe. If the name couldn't satisfy her, the abyss would obtain a new sacrifice. When you looked at the abyss was also looking at you. The endless darkness, the deepest abyss. I will name you White, how about it? The princess of the abyss felt surprised. The unknown existence from the darkest abyss. The absolute power that could overturn all things. White stood for the purest color. It sounds good. No, not just good. It is the most suitable name for me. White. White. White, good, I like it. From now on, my name is White. From the moment she obtained her name, a strange feeling was aroused in her heart. She knew she should return to the abyss as soon as possible, because every second she stayed here would consume a lot of her energy. To her whose body hadn't formed, it was dangerous to stay outside of the abyss. However, she just didn't want to leave. Because she was the princess of the abyss, the child of the great master of chaos. She could do whatever she wanted. Remember, you are not allowed to join Buddhism for all eternity. White waved her black tentacles and threatened Yunshi. Maha is an eminent monk, he means no harm. Yunshi felt interested in Buddhism. Actually, if White didn't come, he was prepared to talk about more things with Maha Mystery. The Sword of Wisdom he mentioned sounded interesting. If I can use the Sword of Wisdom to cut off the threads of love between me and my ex-girlfriends, can I successfully get rid of them? No, no, you are not allowed to join Buddhism. If you dare to do this, I will eliminate all monks in the world. When White said that, she was serious and her eyes were full of killing intention. She didn't like monks from the beginning. Only dead monks are good monks. I will keep watching you. As one of the incarnations of the abyss, White affirmed that he was an interesting man. Nothing could be better than this as an amusement in her sleeping period. She wasn't acting like a spoiled child. It must be just a delusion. Therefore, Yunshi obtained another special will, the gift from the abyss. It passed through teacher Kasina's body and entered his soul. He had collected a dozen similar wills after his battle with Alpha. Yunshi didn't know how they went into his soul, but he couldn't stop them. The nature of his soul was at the hero rank. How could he refuse the wills of the legend rank? Fortunately, apart from White's will from the abyss, all the others were from his opponents on the starry sky chessboard. No one was hostile to such a strong chess player. Yunshi could only feel reverence from these wills. He was too strong on the starry sky chessboard. Anyway, they did no harm to his body and didn't have any negative effects. After a few tries, Yunshi gave up and continued to play Star Go. Carry him out. The next Maha Mystery was defeated again. I think no one would have any doubts now. 7 star points. I never expected that I could see the birth of 2 7-star points players in my lifetime. No, 7 star points isn't his end. The game hasn't finished. All legend-ranked beings looked at the name on the top of the ranking list with an air of wonder. As for the news that Cyber Elf Alpha had achieved another 50 victories in a row, no one cared about that now. People had understood that Cyber Elf Alpha's Star Go strength was strong, but she was still not at the same level as a cloud in the sky. If Cyber Elf Alpha was the king of Star Go, then a cloud in the sky was the god of Star Go. All other people were just mortals. Only here, on the mysterious starry sky chessboard, the legend-ranked beings would have this feeling. All people were waiting for the coming of an unprecedented moment. Who could stop a cloud in the sky? Or rather to say, what is the limit of successive victories on the starry sky chessboard? I have achieved 7 star points. Yunshi looked up at the mark of 7 star points above his head. He felt incredible. Isn't it too easy? Why are there so many 2-star points and 3-star points rookies? Was it because of the newbie protection mechanism? Is it a bug? Cyber Elf Alpha's Star Go strength wasn't bad. By analogy, 8-star points and 9-star points chess players must be stronger. Even he had to strive for winning. Yunshi had prepared to accept the truth that he couldn't achieve 100 successive victories this time around, and would come back after some hard practice. If only determining a person's star points from the number of the person's successive victories, it's really not reasonable. Mayer also felt that this rule wasn't good. Of course, no matter what the rule is, as long as it is still a game on the star map, my master won't lose. Even though my master is still young, he is still the star child. While Yunshi was lost in thought, finally, his new opponent wasn't just a 2-star points or 3-star points rookie. It was an opponent who had 6-star points. Oh! That pervert! Skuld screamed when she saw Yunshi's 7-star points. Oh, this is fate, Ord shrugged her shoulders. Since the game was still continuing, this battle was inevitable. We can't escape from our fate, Verdandi sighed. No matter how they predicted it from the past, present, or future, their winning possibility was 0. The 72nd game, Norn the God of Wisdom versus a cloud in the sky. Ord looked at the chessboard and was already drunk. Sister, don't emit that strange sound, Verdandi said in a trembling voice. I mustn't run away. I mustn't run away. I mustn't run away. Skuld cried. Her sisters became strange. She would become the last fortress, protecting her sisters bravely. Unfortunately, the resistance of the weak was futile and meaningless in this world. As the Star Child, Yunshi was the god of Star Go. His moves on the chessboard looked simple, but could actually change the orbits of the stars. No matter what their attitudes were, they were destined to be defeated. I concede. Ord ground her teeth and crossed her legs. Ha, puff, Verdandi covered her face with her hands. Her neck was totally dyed pink. I must get revenge. Revenge. Skuld was the only one who still had the strength to shout. It was too shameful to experience that feeling again. After defeating Norn the god of wisdom again, Yunshi was in a sunny mood again. He didn't know the reason, but he felt happy when playing with the god of wisdom. He was interested in Norn's 3 distinct reactions. It's fun to play Star Go. After defeating Norn the god of wisdom again, Yunshi surprisingly found that he saw no new faces now. Precisely, this trend had appeared after his 50th victory, he just didn't find it out until now. Number 8 star points chess player, neither 9 star points chess player. After confirming that he had played with all the other 46 chess players, Yunshi noticed that the 7 star points Cyber Elf Alpha was actually the strongest chess player he had ever met. He even had only met one 6 star points chess player, Norn the god of wisdom. Paw. 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 With clear sounds of putting down chess pieces, Yunshi defeated the 5 star points Duke Rome again. Awesome! You deserve to be called the Hand of Starburst. After being beat down again, Duke Rome didn't look disappointed, but had said that in a tone of respect. He had seen too many similar expressions from his opponents after his game with Alpha, and every time he would receive a legend ranked will from his opponent. It was their respect for the strongest god of Star Go. It had nothing to do with right and wrong, but a sense of awe that even the 3 goddesses of Norn had to admit. Only Cyber Elf Alpha didn't leave a similar will on the chessboard. It was because of her special attribute. As the cyber god, her power was based on the planet quadrant computers in the Mechanist god's domain, so she couldn't leave her will on the starry sky chessboard. Infinite computing power was Alpha's advantage, but in some sense, it was also her shortcoming. When did I get those titles? Yunshi felt confused. The Hand of Starburst. The God of Star Go. The Saint of Cloud. The King of the Sky Tower. Duke Rome shrugged his shoulders and counted Yunshi's titles one by one, which gave Yunshi an impulse to hide into the ground. These titles are too embarrassing. He was just playing Star Go in a pleasant mood, how could he obtain these titles that sounded great? He couldn't be the Hand of Starburst, neither the God of Star Go. He was just good at finding the changes on the star maps, it had nothing to do with himself. For example, when he played with Alpha, he just found the trend of the destruction of stars and gave them a push. He also didn't expect it from the beginning. After the destruction, that star field would obtain a new life. This was the circulation of stars. And the traces of the past stars would forever exist in the starlights at the speed of light. As long as the starry sky still existed, the memory of stars would never fade away. This was the first knowledge Yunshi had learned. It's a great pleasure for me to be the witness of the first 8 star points chess player. I hope I can meet you again when the next time the starry sky chessboard opens. Duke Rome bowed like a gentleman and disappeared. Yunshi achieved 80 victories in a row. Why does everyone think that it's such a great achievement? Is Star Go really that difficult? Till now, Yunshi still didn't understand why the other people couldn't see changes on the star map clearly. Apart from the Ruby Dragon, the God of Wisdom and Cyber Elf Alpha, everyone always made a lot of mistakes. Yes, it's not difficult. Maybe they just don't understand the orbits of stars. Master, you have great talent on this. Mayer smiled. They were bringing about their own destruction to play Star Go with the Star Child. However, they also gained something from their failures. Nothing could be better than playing Star Go with the Star Child if one was seeking for the secret of the stars. Master, do you see it? Everyone presented their power of will to Master. It was an equivalent exchange actually. Unfortunately, Master can't absorb them now. They are too strong for Master's hero-ranked soul. The 90th game. Casina. 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 My honey, teach me how to play Star Go. How did you create the starburst? If it wasn't because I remember your smell, I would wonder if you are a fake. Orfino looked at Casina's body with a look that made Yunshi feel creepy. If it wasn't because of the protection of the starlights, he would have run away. Because of that creepy feeling, his moves on the chessboard also became fast and powerful. Yes, Yunshi started his attack. He never wanted to finish a game as quickly as possible like now. Gee. No way, you can actually put down your chess piece here. Slow down, Casina. Don't be in a rush. Whoa. I'm miserable. Gosh, how can I lose so fast? Orfina felt both painful and happy. Casina. I'm going to look for you. Wait for me. Finally, Orfina moved her eyes from the chessboard and looked at Yunshi with her glistening eyes, and her announcement made Yunshi sweat like a pig. Well, just look for Teacher Casina. It has nothing to do with me. Yes, that's it. Yunshi hypnotized himself. He achieved 9 star points now. After that, he could clearly feel the wave of his opponent's respect in each game. On the Starry Sky chessboard, the code name, A Cloud in the Sky, had become the symbol of invincibility, just like the Battle God Casina, in the Mystery World the Battle Gods Championship contest. The 91st victory. Black Mage. The 92nd victory. Maple Teeth. The 96th victory. Hero of Might. The 99th victory. Norn the God of Wisdom. Finally, he met that slender girl again. Cyber Elf Alpha. After 100 rounds, he won. He achieved 100 victories in a row now. In front of Yunshi, Alpha looked at him grudgingly. No, she didn't feel bad because she lost again, but because she couldn't use all her strength. After the game with Yunshi before, her 15,000 times legend-ranked computing power had dropped to less than 7,000 times, not even half more than the peak value. Over half of the Planet Quadrant computers crashed because of overheating. They couldn't work again before some heavy maintenance of several months. Even so, with half of the Planet computers, her computing power was still strong enough to beat down everyone apart from Yunshi, and obtained the opportunity to play with him again. However, she felt very unsatisfied. This time, with only half of her computing power, she was defeated quickly. Even though she had rebuilt her mathematical model again, she still had no chance to win. It was too bad. She wanted to enjoy the game, but her hardware configuration wasn't sufficient. It was like a person who finally bought his favorite game, but sadly found that his old computer couldn't run the game. No, I swear it won't happen again. I must build more Planet computers using the fastest speed. I will go to look for you. I will upgrade to 120,000 times legend-ranked computing power as quickly as possible. No matter where you are, I will find you and play Star Go with you again. Her heart pounded and the antennas on her forehead formed a big heart-shaped symbol. After saying that, Alpha hurriedly left the Starry Sky chessboard. This game also became Yunshi's last game on the Starry Sky chessboard. He had achieved 100 successive victories. This moment was witnessed by all legend-ranked beings in the Sky Tower, God Tower, and Dragon Tower. Norn the God of Wisdom, Orfina the Ruby Dragon, Black Mage, Duke Rome, Maha Mystery, Cyber Elf Alpha, all chess players looked up into the star-studded sky in their gods' domains. Countless fireworks rose on the starry sky chessboard. This was a scene only Yunshi could see. Countless bright stars flew into the air above the starry sky chessboard and demonstrated the circulation of stars. Destruction and rebirth. Countless lights crossed and formed a dance of the Star River. It was the gift for the unprecedented champion of 100 successive victories. Being surrounded by infinite starlights, Yunshi was overwhelmed by an unexpected favor. At the same time, the rewards of the 100 successive victories were also presented in front of Yunshi. They were 4 doors. The first door was engraved with countless dragons. Fire Dragon, Green Dragon, Black Dragon, Special Jade Dragon, Bronze Dragon, Legendary Giant Dragon, all kinds of dragons on the door were vivid. The Dragon of Order, the Mother of Time and Space, the Master of all things, the incarnation of birth, life, and death. Yunshi read the words on the door and somehow, he started perspiring. No, can it be? No, change the door. The second door was emitting beautiful 7-colored lights, which looked similar to the lights in his game with Alpha. The colors of earth, water, fire, wind, light, and dark mixed on the door and were engraved on a slate, as if they were announcing their master's omniscient power. The God above gods, the master of the 7-colored world, the host of the market of gods and demons, the omnipotent one. This is. Yunshi remembered his dream of stars. No, not this. Change the door. Yunshi had had a very bad feeling at this time. The third door was made of countless souls. 2 gods of death stood on both sides of the door. It seemed that there was nothing under their black cloaks, but it also looked like they contained everything. The root of pain, the god of disorder, the nameless madam, the master of the city of sigil. No way. Can these doors be all? With his last hope, Yunshi turned to look at the 4th door. Endless black sea was roaring, and from time to time, unknown monsters with 1,000 eyes and 1,000 hands would be born in the sea and fly to one world after another. The unknown terror, the incarnation of chaos, the mother of the abyss. Okay, now my 4 ex-girlfriends are all here. Why are the rewards of the starry sky chessboard the 4 doors? I only want a soul jade. Yunshi raised his hand and told the award issuer, although he didn't know if the award issuer really existed. Soul jade. He heard a machine-like, unemotional voice. After a while, dozens of soul jades appeared in the air in front of him. Are they all soul jades? Yunshi didn't know what a real soul jade looked like. In fact, before he had heard it from Thatcher Casina, he didn't even know of the existence of soul jades. Soul jade of 4 spirits. A soul jade made of monsters' souls. You can make a wish to it, and it will disappear after your wish is fulfilled. Soul jade of innocence. You can store your memory in the jade. Even if your existence was totally wiped off from the universe, your memory in the soul jade wouldn't disappear. Soul jade of blood. You can use it as the core of your god weapon. It can be upgraded by killing and finally evolve to be the rule of killing. Soul jade of holy light. Put on this soul jade and you can obtain a light-type talent. Looking at the dozens of soul jades, Yunshi hesitated and finally pointed to the soul jade that was covered with soft white lights. I choose this, soul jade of innocence. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.